Chapter 1988. The two doppelgangers of the wild dog knew that they couldn't save the situation, so they pretended to be calm and waited for all of us to fall into confusion. Then, they could escape by surprise. Sacrificing the pawn to save the cart, not sacrificing the cart to save the pawn. The wild dog was really scheming, but Brother Ni still saw through it at a glance. Brother Ni's insight is really amazing. This time, it was Parrot's turn to be speechless. This group of people actually made up such a reasonable reason. Didn't they know that Chu Hang would be laughing to death when he put Chu Hang into the magic tripod? The parrot knew this better than anyone else. Chu Yang was the best at erasing the marks left behind by others. For example, when they participated in the entrance examination of the Sky Academy, Chu Yang seized the control of the formation in the examination place and caused trouble. In fact, the magic tripod had the same nature as the formation. In particular, Chu Hang had gone further and was now such a level 9 formation master. Putting a level 9 formation master into the magic tripod was simply the rhythm of giving the magic tripod away. Haha. Ni Yuankai got people's approval. His extreme anger was greatly vented and he laughed heartily. Many people also laughed out loud and mocked him again and again. The wild dog is doomed this time. How great is the wild dog? It's just SOSO. Only the clowns of the Sky Academy would worship a wild dog. It's even more despicable than a dog. Who are you calling a clown? Dare you say it again? The Sky Academy immediately exploded. A tall and strong young man rolled up his sleeves and stared fiercely with his eyes as big as copper bells. My name is Wang Ju. Dare you say that in front of me again? So what if I say it again? You people of the Sky Academy are despicable. You're all clowns. Li He of the Sky Sword Academy, don't think that I don't know you. If you dare to say it again, I'll tear your mouth off. I'm wrong. Li He didn't back down at all. He rolled up his sleeves and roared, it's just a wild dog. You're worshipping it like this. Isn't that despicable? Bullshit. You haven't seen Chu Hang's power. Just wait for your face to be slapped. Wang Ju was held back by someone, but he still continued to chatter. Face slapping. Li He sneered again and again, if that wild dog can overturn the heavens, you don't need to tear my mouth apart. How about I tear it apart myself? Alright, just you wait. Below the stage, a conflict broke out in an instant. It was very fiery. If no one stopped them, they would have already started fighting. What's with the noise? Ni Yuankai scolded coldly in the arena. Then, he looked at the people of the Sky Academy with disdain and said, do you think Wild Dog is so great? I'll show you how ignorant and despicable you are. While speaking, Ni Yuankai was about to drive the magic tripod to swallow the last two Chu Yang. However, when he tried to drive the magic tripod with all his strength, it trembled and made a buzzing sound, like a person in a dilemma. What? Ni Yuankai's face turned pale in horror. There was no color in his face at all. In just a short time, that wild dog had stolen half of the control of the magic tripod. How could this be possible? At this moment, there was no arrogance and pride on his face when he scolded the people of the Sky Academy. Instead, he began to tremble. Wild dog, don't even think about it. Ni Yuankai roared in horror and rushed into the magic tripod like crazy. Immediately, Chu Yang's voice came out of it. You're just a clown. Do you really think I care about you? Buzz. Chapter 1989. With a clang, the lid of the cauldron was closed again, and no sound came out from it. Chu Yang and Ni Yuankai seemed to be two good friends who had met inside, and there was no sound of fighting at all. Everyone outside was silent, and all their attention was on the mother cauldron of the five hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron. But 30 minutes passed in the blink of an eye, and there was still no sound from it. Li He, how does it feel to be slapped in the face? While many people were whispering to each other, Wang Ju of the Sky Academy directly ridiculed Li He of the Sky Sword Academy. As soon as Wang Ju spoke, Li He and the others instantly blushed and felt their faces burning. Laugh. Why don't you laugh? Why don't you laugh again? Why don't you laugh again? Wang Ju was so aggressive that Li He and the others instantly became angry and glared at Wang Ju. What? Wang Ju was very angry, and he was not afraid at all. He sneered and said, "Why are you unhappy? You are unhappy. I didn't laugh at you for being stupid, but you laughed at me for being cheap. Now you feel good, right? Now you know how powerful Chu Hang is, right?" Many people of the Sky Academy were also watching coldly at this time. They were also angry to be humiliated and ridiculed by a group of ignorant people. Chu Hang was amazing, and that was a bloody lesson. Many people of the Sky Academy had died because of it. They were actually ridiculed sharply and bitterly for accepting such a fact. Li He of the Sky Sword Academy, you were the most arrogant just now. Wang Ju still did not give up. He pointed at Li He and said, "Didn't you just say that Chu Hang can turn over? We don't need to kill your rotten mouth. You can do it yourself. Has the wild dog turned over?" Li He could not bear it and said angrily, "Wang Ju, you are happy too early. You are indeed a dog of the wild dog. A dog." Wang Ju was furious. "Li He, don't you have eyes and ears? You are still so stubborn at this time. Your face will be smashed later." "Humph." Li He said coldly, "It's just a wild dog. Wang Ju, your Sky Academy thinks highly of that wild dog. Do you want everyone to think highly of that wild dog? You don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what to do. Ha ha." Wang Ju couldn't help but laugh out loud and said loudly, "Good, Li He, just wait and see. When Chu Hang comes out, I'll see how you deal with this. Do you need to worry about how things will end?" A student from the Divine Firmament Academy mocked, "The mother-child heavenly demon cauldron belongs to Ni Yuan Kai. How could the wild dog steal it so easily? You must be blind." Another one. Wang Ju became even angrier. "What's your name? Do you dare to reveal it? Otherwise, you won't even know who you are if you get slapped in the face later." Jing Zhengshang. He said his name, and then said mockingly, "Wang Ju, we still don't know who will be slapped in the face." "I'm Hu Zisha." A student from the Star Academy suddenly mocked, "I'll tell you my name first. Look at the wild dog, look at the wild dog, we can't leave out the Star Academy now. Today, I want to see if the wild dog can overturn the heavens and slap my face. If that's the case, my Heavenly Demon Academy can't be left out. After all, Ni Yuan Kai is from the Heavenly Demon Academy." A rather handsome student from the Heavenly Demon Academy smiled evilly and said to Wang Ju, "Wang Ju, I'm Kang Jiada. Can you slap my face?" Ha, the Heavenly Demon Academy, the Divine Firmament Academy, and the Heavenly Sword Academy all have people. How can my Myriad Academy be left out? Count me, Tian Han, in. A one-eyed youth laughed loudly, his voice full of mockery. Ha, looking down on the wild dog, how can you genuinely be left out? Count me in. Chapter 1990. In an instant, many students from the Heavenly Demon Academy, Heavenly Sword Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Star Academy, and Myriad Academy stepped forward and ridiculed them. This made the expressions of Wang Ju and those from the Sky Academy extremely unsightly, and they sneered in their hearts. Wang Ju's temper was the worst. He also laughed loudly. "Do you think you're so great? Why don't you all curse Chu Hang, a wild dog? Do you dare? Do you really think a wild dog can turn the world upside down?" Jing Zhengshang immediately retorted, "Wang Ju, listen carefully. I'll shout for you. Chu Yang, you're just a wild dog, a bastard, a bastard." He stopped shouting and said provocatively, "Wang Ju, are you satisfied? Humph, do you think you're the only one with the guts?" Wang Ju was very disdainful. "Then count us in." Hu Zisha, Kang Jiada, Hu Tianhan, Liu Xinhong, Yu Juanli, Li He, and the others from the 5 academies all spoke up. Then they all shouted at the demonic tripod, "Chu Yang, your father is a dog, your mother is a dog, your whole family is a dog, your son is a dog, all your descendants are dogs, and you're a pure wild dog, a bastard. Bastard, you'll definitely die today. If you can turn the world upside down, there'll be no justice. You're only in the Dharma phase realm and you dare to be so arrogant. If I don't kill you, you won't know you're a bastard." Ha. Wang Ju was surrounded and helpless. He was so angry that he laughed. Good, very good. Just wait for Chu Hang to come out and kill all of you. Ha. Li He was relieved after receiving everyone's support. Hearing this, he also laughed loudly. Even a wild dog can defeat Ni Yuankai in the end. Wang Ju, if a wild dog dares to kill us, I don't think he has the gut. Originally, it was just a martial arts competition between Chu Yang and Ni Yuankai. However, due to the discrimination of the Eastern continent in the Eastern wilderness and the ridicule of the Heavenly Sword Academy, the Heavenly Demon Academy, the Divine Firmament Academy, and the other academies, it had turned into a farce. Kui Xinhu, Oyu Lajing, and Hao Haodong, as members of the Eastern wilderness, felt incomparably humiliated and incomparably enraged. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg of discrimination and bullying in the Eastern wilderness. In the Eastern continent, who knew how many people from the Eastern wilderness were crying blood right now? The parrot watched all of this with cold eyes, and in its heart, it was laughing coldly. It also belonged to the Eastern wilderness. Of course, it was angry, but it didn't make a sound. It couldn't smile like it used to. Feng Porlong frowned as he looked at the arrogant people from the Heavenly Sword Academy. He felt very uneasy and couldn't help but ask Zongjian, "What do we do now?" Zongjian did not say anything. What could he do? Yaya. Lil Guari's angry voice resounded throughout the place. It was also completely infuriated by Tian and finally understood what Chu Yang had done in the Eastern continent. It angrily criticized the people from the 5 academies. Lil Guari, shut up. The parrot was furious and scolded Lil Guari. Lil Guari's criticism was too weak, and it could only make the people from the Eastern continent laugh at it. It didn't want Lil Guari to be involved in this huge vortex. Shangguan Lan frowned. The ridicule from the 5 academies was a little too much. She was also worried that Lil Guari would be attacked by these people, so she immediately protected it. Many people present had their own opinions, but the general situation was one-sided. The 5 academies' mocking and insulting of Chu Yang had become a fact. The loud voices were mocking and insulting Chu Yang, and the situation was getting more and more intense. However, at this moment, no one from the 6 academies came out to stop this farce. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang felt all of this, and their eyes revealed deep worry. How do you think Chu Hang will react after he comes out? Xiong Longxiang asked the two of them. Chapter 1991. It's not the right time yet. Chu Hang will probably bear with it for now. Liu Yunpeng had the same opinion as Xia Wanjin. He said, Kung Chu is not a brainless guy. He is very clear about the pros and cons. It is impossible for him to make a mistake when it comes to critical decisions. Hehe, this is interesting. After Chu Yang, the wild dog, comes out of the mother cauldron, I want to see how he will deal with the situation in front of him. Yi Yu was naturally present. At the same time, Gong Sun Shou was also by his side, watching all of this with a cold smile. Chu Yang's first and second Dharma powers were naturally present as well. Their reactions were not in sync with Chu Yang's, but through them, Chu Yang, who was in the mother cauldron, was clearly aware of the situation outside. In the face of such a situation, there was no use in getting angry. Chu Yang did not get angry. He only thought about everything that had happened since he entered the East continent from the Eastern wilderness. He also thought about everything that he had done. What should he do in the future? He was just one person. To be honest, he did not know what to do. He was a little lost. Discrimination, prejudice, arrogance, and other bad habits of human beings had existed since ancient times. They were deeply rooted. What virtue did Chu Yang have to erase these bad habits? Not to mention others, even he himself could not get rid of these deep-rooted vices. I don't care about these things. I just need to be myself. In the face of such a terrible situation outside, he finally made a decision. He realized that he should not endlessly magnify the problem. Instead, he should limit the problem to himself. He should do what he could and do what he was happy to do. As for the outcome, let the dog take care of it. With this decision, Chu Yang no longer cared about anything outside. He focused on controlling and refining the 5 Hell's mother-child heavenly demon cauldrons. These 6 cauldrons would be something that he could rely on in the future. Therefore, it was really difficult for him to kill Ni Yuankai, who had helped him in his hour of need. Naturally, how could Ni Yuankai possibly be his match? The moment he rushed into the mother cauldron, he was instantly suppressed by Chu Yang, without the slightest strength to fight back. At this moment, Ni Yuankai was like a dead dog, lying in a corner and shivering. Maybe he could still curse Chu Yang in circles, draw a circle on the ground, wish you eternal rest. This was the only thing he could do. He was powerless to do anything before this. Of course, he could still scold people as he opened his mouth. Wild dog, he could casually say. But now, he didn't even dare to open his mouth. The 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldrons. Among the 6 cauldrons, there were many formations. They were densely packed, and all of them were saint-level formations. To the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron, these formations were like a person's internal organs. The patterns that connected the formations were the meridians, and the core was the brain. It was definitely not easy to control them one by one. Fortunately, Chu Yang was a formation master. He had mastered the 3 ultimacies of Soul Slayer, Soul Devouring, and Soul Detention. In addition, he had already mastered Ni Yuankai. Therefore, he was able to quickly obtain saint-level formations. What was more troublesome was that the intelligence in the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron was somewhat difficult to subdue. After Chu Yang gave his ultimatum, the intelligence in the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron still resisted. He directly had the ice kraken take action and wipe out all the emotions and consciousness of the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron's intelligence. Only its intelligence remained, turning it into a pure intelligence system. Then, he inserted his own imprint into it. After inserting his imprint, the intelligence in it would slowly form a new intelligence in the future. It would be completely different from the previous intelligence. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The moment the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron changed owners, the 6 cauldrons vibrated together, as if announcing the news to everyone. The aura they gave off was completely different from before. It was as if a person's soul had been replaced. However, if one's cultivation wasn't high enough, they wouldn't be able to sense such a change. Immediately, there was a commotion outside. Chapter 1992. When Wang Ju heard the commotion caused by the 5th hell's mother-child heavenly demon cauldron, he was also shocked. However, when he heard the ear-piercing laughter, his face turned red and he shouted angrily, "How am I going to slap your faces? Li He, just you wait. If I don't slap your faces today, I'll change my surname to yours." Haha. Li He laughed even louder. "Wang Ju, my Li family doesn't have an idiot like you, much less a bastard like you. Worshipping a wild dog. My Jing family doesn't have a bastard like you either." Jing Zhengshang sneered. "The wild dog is only in the transcendence realm. Once Ni Yuankai uses the nirvana flame, the wild dog will die for sure." Hu Zisha was even more direct. He mocked, "Wang Ju, I've seen stupid people before, but I've never seen someone as stupid as you." "That's right." Kang Jiada was about to say something as a mocking smile appeared on his face. However, his smile suddenly froze as if he had fallen into an ice cave. His pupils trembled as he looked in a certain direction in astonishment. Haha. At this time, the laughter was still going on. Suddenly, Kang Jiada slapped himself in the face. Then, he opened his eyes wide and looked at everything as if nothing had changed. With a thump, he went limp and sat on the ground on his butt. The laughter stopped abruptly. Li He noticed Kang Jiada's actions. When he looked over, he instantly felt as if he had seen his natural enemy. He wanted to run away, but his legs were weak. With a plop, he fell to the ground and fell flat on his face. Hu Zisha, Jing Zhengshang, Yu Juanli, Liu Xinhong, and the others all saw what Li He and Kang Jiada saw at this moment. Their faces turned pale and they shivered. The muscles on their faces even twitched, causing their faces to become slightly deformed. Wild dog. How is this possible? How can the wild dog win in the end? The wild dog is only in the transcendence realm. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can the wild dog be born? Is Ni Yuankai so weak? The people of the 5 academies were in a mess, as if a bomb had been thrown into the sea. At this moment, Chu Yang was standing at the mouth of the mother-child heavenly demon cauldron of the 5 hells. He was carrying Ni Yuankai, who looked like a dead dog, with a half-smile and half-anger on his face. He seemed extremely indifferent, but there seemed to be a hint of warmth. No one knew what he was thinking right now. Everyone from the Heavenly Sword Academy instantly became nervous. They were extremely uneasy and nervous. Haha. Wang Ju's loud laughter was very abrupt, but it was not ear-piercing at all. Everyone's attention was no longer on him. Li He, who did you just call stupid and a bastard? Jing Zhengshang, call me a wild dog if you dare. Hu Zisha, you're only at the transcendent stage, right? You bastard, why aren't you mocking me anymore? You're acting like a son of a bitch now. Wang Ju retaliated one by one. Just now, he was really angry and sullen. Chimph, are you afraid now? Who doesn't know? Who are you mocking just now? Who are you calling stupid? Chu Hang's fame has spread far and wide. How many people don't know that there are still idiots like you who are mocking him? In your words, I've seen stupid people, but I've never seen people as stupid as you. You know how terrifying Chu Hang is, but you still dare to be so presumptuous. I've lived long enough to see this. I'm completely convinced by your mysterious confidence. Chapter 1993. Everyone from the Sky Academy, is it my turn to make a grand entrance? Chu Yang's voice seemed to be as cold as ice, and there seemed to be a trace of warmth. It was so cold that everyone from the Sky Academy couldn't help but shiver. Wang Ju couldn't help but shrink his neck. They felt that this master was definitely going to flip out again. Why did they say again? It was because they felt that the interval between Chu Yang's previous outburst was too short. Li He, Yu Juanli, and the others are going to have a good time this time. Trouble comes at the mouth. They will definitely know this in the future. They took the lesson of the Sky Academy's blood as a joke and treated us as fools. This time, not only have they become fools, but they have also become a joke. There will be a lot to see. If you don't say anything, it means that you agree with my grand entrant. Accompanied by Chu Yang's voice, with a bang, Ni Yuankai fell to the ground silently. Then, he exploded into pieces, leaving no bones behind. On account of the fact that you gave me the 5 hellish mother-child heavenly demon cauldron and let me see the malice of the 5 great academies, I can forgive you, but the death penalty is inevitable. Chu Yang had killed Ni Yuankai first, and only then did he sentence Ni Yuankai to death. This made everyone's heart skip a beat. Especially the people from the Sky Academy, who knew Chu Yang's character. This was definitely a sign before his outburst. Needless to say, Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and the others were already prepared to kill people after Chu Yang. There was absolutely no other choice. Will Chu Hang really make a move? Feng Porlong asked in a serious voice. The consequences of this were too serious. What do you think? Zong Jian had no doubts in his heart. At this moment, Chu Yang's voice once again entered everyone's ears clearly. Who wants to explain or give me the 5 hellish mother-child heavenly demon cauldron? He's really going to make a move? Feng Porlong's pupils constricted. He now knew the answer. Chu Yang would definitely make a move. He didn't care about the 6 great academies or what bullshit they were. If Feng Porlong had to explain, he recalled the words that Chu Yang had said to the Sage Master and the other 6 academy masters. You made me unhappy, so I'll make you even more unhappy. Since no one answered, it seems that there is no one, right? Seeing that Chu Yang's expression finally changed and he smiled brightly, Feng Porlong had no more doubts in his heart. Shua. Chu Yang's figure moved like a bolt of lightning, extremely fast. The next moment, you're called Li He, right? I heard that you're the most active. You were the first to call me wild dog. How about I give you a surprise? Chu Yang suddenly appeared beside Li He. He looked at Li He with a smile and said, how about I kill you? You. With a bang, Chu Yang pressed down with his palm. Li He, who was still trembling, had his head stuffed into his chest. With a thud, he fell to the ground, dead. The world was silent, as if everything in the world knew that this was only the prelude to death. Shua. Chu Yang appeared beside Hu Zisha. Hu Zisha, right? You're the second to jump after Li He. I'm the second to kill you. Do you have a problem with that? Wild dog, do you know what you're doing? With a crack, Chu Yang broke his neck and lifted him up. Do I need you to teach me what I'm doing? Wild dog, you dare to wantonly kill the disciples of the 6 great academies. You're definitely going to die. In his panic, Jing Zhangshang took action and roared furiously, everyone, don't be afraid of Wild Dog. He's just one person. If we all attack together, no matter how strong the Wild Dog is, we'll be able to drown him with a mouthful of spit from each of us. Chu Yang looked at Jing Zhangshang with interest. He didn't stop Jing Zhangshang and allowed him to do as he wished. He wasn't anxious at all, as if he wouldn't make a move before Jing Zhangshang finished instigating them. Chapter 1994. What consequences? Who he offended? Who he angered? Scram. Are you done? Chu Yang looked at Jing Zhangshang. You're the third one. Are you ready? I'm going to start. Wild Dog, what are you playing at? Jing Zhangshang threw caution to the wind and roared at the Sky Sword Court, Divine Firmament Court, and the rest of the 5 colleges. Everyone, are you going to let Wild Dog do whatever he wants? No one responded. Jing Zhangshang's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly roared, everyone, I, Jing Zhangshang, am not the only one who scolded this Wild Dog. Just now, I can't remember what I said, but there were many people who scolded it very happily. Are you waiting for Wild Dog to kill you one by one? What terrified Jing Zhangshang the most was that Chu Yang had no intention of stopping him. Jing Zhangshang's brain seemed to be trembling. Everyone, Wild Dog is just one person. With so many of us working together, what's the big deal about cursing Wild Dog? Kang Jiada encouraged the others. If we curse him Wild Dog, he'll be courting death. With so many of us attacking him at the same time, he'll die without a complete corpse. He's just a wild dog. Why should the 5 colleges be afraid of him? Don't be scared by this Wild Dog. He's just a dog. Yu Juanli and Liu Xinhong also roared loudly. Behind them were many students from the 5 colleges. Chu Yang looked at all of this coldly and suddenly felt helpless. There were so many people in the eastern wilderness who were full of discrimination and malice. He wasn't bloodthirsty and didn't want to kill. He also didn't want to be called a homicidal maniac, but he had to kill. If he didn't kill, how could he let the people of the eastern wilderness stand proudly on the land of the East Continent? Chu Yang didn't know any other methods for now. The only thing he was sure of was that killing, blood, and death would work. He couldn't be bothered to think of other methods. Since he was the one doing it, he would use his own method. His method was to go on a rampage and do whatever he wanted. Bang bang bang. Chu Yang moved with lightning speed. In an instant, Jing Zhangshang, Kang Jiada and Yu Juanli's bodies spasmed violently. Soon after, bloody lines appeared on their bodies. Finally, they exploded with a bang, causing flesh and blood to fly everywhere. Liu Xinhong reacted because of the first 3. When Chu Yang attacked, he roared, kill. With a peng sound, black flames surged out from his body. This was the Nirvana flame. The flame of Nirvana enveloped his entire body, hoping to use the flame of Nirvana to protect himself. This was because the Wild Dog was only in the Transcendence realm. If he was touched by the Nirvana flames, he would definitely die. At the same time, he did everything he could to attack viciously. Ka-cha-cha. His muscles and bones made a sound like frying beans. Then, in his flesh and organs, there was a rumbling sound like thunder. His body expanded rapidly, and in an instant, he became a giant that was 100 feet tall. His entire body was golden, and there was a layer of a pagoda wrapped around his body. Golden light burst out of it and was extremely dazzling. With a loud bang, his transcendence form also appeared behind him. It was a 300 feet tall transcendence form, dragging a pagoda in its hand. It was like the pagoda Heavenly King that Chu Yang knew. It stood there, and a turbulent aura swept out like waves in the ocean, endless. The Golden Pagoda Heavenly King. This is the Golden Pagoda Heavenly King's transcendence form. It's actually the Golden Pagoda Heavenly King's transcendence form. The transformation that Liu Xinhong's body displayed should be the golden immortal body of the Golden Pagoda Heavenly King. Legend has it that when one cultivates to the end, they can escape from reincarnation and become immortal and indestructible. The Wild Dog is dead for sure. The Golden Pagoda Heavenly King is in existence at the level of Earthly Emperor. He has already escaped reincarnation. The crowd was extremely shocked, and there was a commotion. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. He had just thought of the Pagoda Heavenly King in his memory, and he was immediately reminded of the Golden Pagoda Heavenly King. Chapter 1995. After the sage, it was the Earthly Emperor realm. The sage's spiritual power could interfere with matter. With a thought, he could create, transform, and change the form and essence of any matter at will. Everything moved according to his will. He could destroy the enemy with a thought, decide life and death with a thought, and turn the world upside down with a thought. He had endless power. The Earthly Emperor was the next step of the sage. He could escape the reincarnation cycle and no longer be bound by reincarnation. You want to compete with me in terms of physical strength. You're courting death. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a dazzling neon light burst out from Chu Yang's body. His entire body became crystal clear. As he breathed, the air was sucked into his nostrils. The void seemed to have collapsed. Even lightning flashed and thunder rumbled between his mouth and nose. Rolling thunder resounded. Hiss, the exclamations stopped, and all the people who were clamoring could not help but gasp. When the others saw this scene, their pupils suddenly shrank. The Sky Academy basically knew that Chu Yang's physical strength was strong. Swish! Chu Yang moved and suddenly disappeared. It was as if he had torn the void and was traveling in an inexplicable space. When the crowd saw him, they saw that he had already hugged Liu Xinhong's huge leg with his hands and was swinging it. It was as if an ant was swinging a human, but the ant did not waste any strength at all. It swung the human, who was much larger than itself, as if it was swinging a speck of dust. It made people feel as if they were as light as a feather. A 300-meter tall giant who was as light as a feather. Whoosh, 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 the endless wind swept. Chu Yang swung the 300-meter tall Liu Xinhong as if he was playing with a stick. Such a scene instantly froze everyone in place, as if time had also stopped. Rumble. With a loud noise, the earth rose and fell like waves. Countless cracks tore out, as if the earth had collapsed. With Chu Yang's constant swinging, the earth instantly turned into a huge deep pit, and many people were affected. They screamed and flew out. The golden pagoda that protected Liu Xinhong's body directly burst into pieces, and endless golden light burst out. He was also struggling fiercely, but in the eyes of the crowd, he was soft and feeble, as if he was an ant that had fallen into the hands of a human, helpless. It was just that his 300-meter tall body clashed too much with Chu Yang's figure, so much so that it was incomparably shocking. Crack! Liu Xinhong transformed back to her original size, but she was still unable to break free from Chu Yang's hands. She ruthlessly broke off her own leg and fled in a sorry state. Immediately, his golden pagoda celestial emperor Dharma idol moved, and the golden pagoda fell to suppress him. Chu Yang laughed and said to himself, "He really does look like the pagoda-bearing heavenly king." When everyone heard Chu Yang muttering to himself, he took a big step forward and went straight up into the sky. He raised his hand and slammed it down. Compared to the 3,000 feet tall Dharma form, the palm, which was almost negligible in size, became the center of the world. The lines on the palm were like the sky, and with a flip of the hand, it seemed like the world could be turned upside down at any time. Heaven flipping palm. Rumble. The world shook, and at this moment, everyone felt like they were being turned upside down. Their heads were down, their feet were up, and the whole world seemed to be turned upside down. Heaven and earth were turned upside down, and the world collapsed. Amidst the loud noise, the golden pagoda celestial emperor's 300-meter tall Dharma form was completely turned upside down. Its head was like an awl, sinking straight into the ground. Chu Yang's palm gently pressed down, as if he was pressing on a bubble. The huge Dharma form suddenly exploded, and endless waves of energy surged out. Crack! In the midst of the chaos, a crisp sound suddenly entered everyone's ears. When they looked over, Chu Yang had already broken Liu Xinhong's neck and lifted him in the air. The Golden Pagoda Celestial Emperor is quite interesting. You made me waste a lot of time. Another murder. Chapter 1996. Don't be so surprised, okay? Today, I'm going to chop to my heart's content. What are you talking about? Are you treating Li He, Hu Zisha, Jing Zhengshang, and the others as wooden trees? Are you going to chop them down directly? Is Chu Yang really not the slightest bit concerned about the consequences? The people from the Heavenly Sword Academy and the other 5 academies were terrified. What did they do just now to cause such a consequence? Is it just because they insulted Chu Yang and called him a wild dog? Is he a bastard? Wang Ju and the other people from the Sky Academy could not help but gulp at this moment. They were also completely frightened. They had imagined that Chu Yang would fly into a rage, but they did not expect it to be like this. He would scold everyone and everything. He's a madman. Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou, who were in the crowd, watched all of this with their hearts turned upside down. They had also expected how Chu Yang would deal with such a matter. However, although they had thought of such a possibility, they thought that it would never happen. This was because Chu Yang would always have scruples, but all of this had happened. Unrestrained and reckless, the two of them could only describe Chu Yang as such. Feng Porlong looked worried. He sent a voice transmission to Zong Jian and asked, "Are we going to let this guy go on like this? If that's the case, everyone will be killed." So, Zong Jian also frowned as he watched this scene. "We can at least intervene." Feng Porlong's throat was dry. As a friend, he thought that if Chu Yang continued like this, he would definitely anger the 6 great academies, and the 6 great academies would definitely kill Chu Yang. If you want to be completely stripped naked and hung up to dry, you can give it a try. Zong Jian, what do you mean? Zong Jian frowned and said, "Can't you see that he's eager to change the situation of the people in the eastern wilderness in the East Continent? Not only is he anxious, but he also thinks that only blood and death can change everything. Therefore, he wants to use his hands to kill. He's killing people now to tell the 6 great academies and everyone in the East Continent that everything is just the beginning. As long as the situation of the people in the Eastern Wilderness doesn't change, he'll continue to kill until no one in the East Continent dares to discriminate against the people in the Eastern Wilderness." After a pause, he added, "What's worse, I've noticed his impatience and laziness. He can't be bothered to care about these trivial matters, so he doesn't care about anything." After thinking for a while, Zong Jian expressed his feelings. "He gives me a feeling that as long as he's himself, he'll do whatever he wants. Just like the sword in his hand, he'll cut off all sword moves, sword techniques, ideas, and all kinds of restraint." This was Zong Jian's opinion. Just like how Xiao Qiuyu in the God Realm viewed Chu Yang, Zong Jian also viewed Chu Yang from the perspective of a sword. Chu Yang was killing people and practicing his sword. He was practicing the sword that had no restrictions, the sword of freedom, the sword that did not exist. There was no absolute freedom in the world, so naturally, there was no sword with absolute freedom. At this moment, Chu Yang was extremely dangerous. Feng Porlong was silent. He felt that Chu Yang was going to die, but more people would die, but he could not stop it. If he stopped it, it would be equivalent to stopping Chu Yang's sword path. He would also become Chu Yang's enemy. "Do you want to commit suicide, or do you want to kill all of you?" Chu Yang's voice resounded again, causing Shangguan Lan, Parrot, and the others' eyelids to twitch. Kui Xinhu and the other 2 were also worried. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang's hearts skipped a beat. This was the rhythm of becoming enemies with the 6 great academies and the entire East Continent. "Don't be afraid of the wild dog. Can't we kill him with so many of us?" A Heavenly Sword Academy student with peach blossom eyes roared, reminding the people of the 5 great academies. Li He, Hu Zisha, and the others are the lesson of blood. If you don't unite, all of you want to protect yourselves and hope that others will step up, but none of you stand up, then we will all be killed by him. Chapter 1997. Wild Dog, what are you talking about? A tower-like student from the Sky Demon Academy agreed with the opinion of the peach blossom-eyed youth from the Sky Sword Academy and stood out. That's right. The wild dog is bloodthirsty. If we don't get rid of him soon, the East Continent will be plunged into misery and suffering. For ourselves, for the East Continent, for our families, we can't let this wild dog do whatever he wants. One after another, countless people stood out in an instant. Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou looked at the scene in front of them, but they couldn't smile. Although this was their hope, when it really happened, they didn't feel as happy as they had imagined. They felt that something was wrong. Haha. Chu Yang laughed in his trademark way. Your reactions are very fast. I think you're not stupid, but why did you do such a stupid thing just now? Perhaps, I seem to understand a little. Since it's not a problem of intelligence, then it's a problem of arrogance. Your arrogance in the eastern wilderness has turned all of you into idiots. The more I think about it, the more unhappy I am. Rumble. Chu Yang was originally in mid-air, but as soon as he finished speaking, there was a rumbling sound of thunder. He was like a bolt of lightning, causing the sky and earth to shake. Dong. With another loud sound, Chu Yang came down from the sky and rushed into the crowd. His speed was extremely fast. The peach-blossom-eyed youth from the Sky Sword Academy only managed to put up a defense with the Nirvana flame. He was directly stepped into the ground by Chu Yang. With a loud bang, the peach-blossom-eyed youth was dead. The crowd retreated like a tide. Everyone was shocked by this attack. This attack was extremely shocking. What was most shocking was that Chu Yang didn't fear the Nirvana flame at all. The wild dog wants to be the enemy of the 6 great academies and the entire East continent. Kill him. He's just a wild dog. How can he be the opponent of the 6 great academies? How can he be the opponent of the entire East continent? The wild dog is about to die without a complete corpse. Everyone, don't hesitate. Quickly go out and kill the wild dog. Otherwise, you might be the next to die. Just as Chu Yang thought, the people from the 5 great academies were definitely not fools. The reason why they were fools before was only because of their arrogance. Their discrimination in the eastern wilderness was deeply rooted in their bones. Haha. When Chu Yang thought of this, he felt that he hadn't done anything wrong. His soft-heartedness had completely vanished from the bottom of his heart. Everyone, quickly come and kill me. He also began to laugh. It was as if all of his shackles had been completely released at this moment. Wild dog, do you think we're afraid of you? Kill. Slaughter this wild dog. Slaughter this murderous demon. Although the students of the 5 great academies were afraid, they knew that if they didn't do this, they would be the ones to die. They responded loudly and were about to rush over to kill. Stop, all of you stop. Stop it right now. Chu Yang, if you dare to be presumptuous again, you'll be killed without mercy. A furious roar came from afar, accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air. The holy masters and the headmasters of the 6 academies had all arrived. When they saw Chu Yang, they questioned him furiously. Chu Yang, are you trying to rebel? Rebelling? Chu Yang glanced at the 6 of them and sneered, why didn't you come a little later? Are you afraid that I'll trigger the lightning punishment and kill all of you? The 6 masters immediately choked. All of their anger had to be restrained in an instant. Boom. Chapter 1998. At this moment, they noticed that the members of the Sky Court had already hidden themselves somewhere, and their hearts thumped. The members of the Sky Court are well aware of the wild dog's movements, so they've already taken precautions against it. What they said earlier is also true. However, it was too late for them to realize this. They kept calling wild dog, which was simply courting death. Wild Dog had promised not to use the lightning tribulation in the competition, but this was not a competition, this was a battle outside the competition. They were the ones who added the drama, and they were courting death. Chu Yang, why did you kill them? The 6 hall masters had to change their tone. Is there a point in asking when you already know the answer? Logically speaking, if Chu Yang wanted to solve this kind of problem, he should give a reason and brush it off, but he did not do so at all. There was no need for that. They only insulted you. Their crime is not worthy of death. How can you be so ruthless? The 6 hall masters could barely contain their anger, and their patience had reached its limit. The wild dog had used lightning punishment to humiliate them who knew how many times already. They insulted me, and I was unhappy to hear it. I wanted to kill them. What can you do about it? Chu Yang looked at the 6 people with a sneer. You are not qualified to be afraid of the lightning tribulation. Go and invite the 6 leaders here. If the 6 of you have any objections. He paused and smiled evilly. I'll still kill them all. Boom. The faces of the 5 Great Academy students were even paler. This wild dog actually didn't even put the leaders in its eyes. It had to be threatened and killed. You. The 6 hall masters were almost angered to death. Bullshit. Chu Yang glared at them and said, I've already told you about my power and prestige. You didn't go back and discipline those playthings. Instead, you let them come out and bark at me. I want to kill them. You're jumping up and down. Do you think you're in the right now? Rumble. Thunder rumbled in the sky and spread down from afar. Suddenly, everyone present was shocked. When they lifted their heads to look at the sky, they saw that thick black clouds had already appeared. Moreover, the black clouds were still rapidly gathering. In just the blink of an eye, the entire sky was almost completely covered by dark clouds. The world was completely dark. Within the thundercloud, lightning snakes danced. Streaks of dazzling lightning tore through the void and spread into the distance. Lightning punishment. The lightning punishment was about to descend. The lightning punishment triggered by the wild dog was about to descend. The scene was in chaos. The faces of the 6 headmasters were ashen, but they didn't dare to move. If they dared to move and tried to escape, the lightning punishment would definitely descend in an instant. They couldn't escape at all. There was absolutely no one who could escape. What shocked them the most was that the wild dog's thundercloud was extremely frightening. The thunder cloud actually covered the entire sky. Just thinking about the thunder cloud made their scalps go numb. Feng Polong and Zong Jian's heartstrings were completely taut. Once the lightning punishment descended, it was unknown how many people would die. There was no more room for mediation between Chu Yang and the 6 headmasters. The 2 of them were destined to become Chu Yang's enemies. Either you die, or I die. Such an outcome was absolutely not what they wanted to see. Especially when they felt that it was very likely that they would be the ones to die. Stop. Chapter 1999. Do you think I have to stop just because you asked me to? What? That was a leader. Everyone trembled as if they had been struck by lightning. It was fine if Chu Yang didn't give face to the dean, but he actually dared to do this to the leader. He was too audacious. The leaders of the 6 Great Academies were not on the same level as the dean of the 6 Great Academies. The dean of the 6 Great Academies had not broken through to the Saint Realm, but the leaders of the 6 Great Academies were all saints. Everyone below the Saint Realm was an ant. According to this sentence, the dean was just an ant in front of the leaders. Chu Yang could ignore the dean of the 6 Great Academies, but how could he ignore the leaders of the 6 Great Academies? Who did he think he was? After the extreme shock and horror, many people were instantly delighted. The leaders of the 6 Great Academies were saints, and they were not afraid of the lightning tribulation. Wild Dog was courting death. You don't have to be agitated. You humiliated the people of the Eastern Wilderness. You can kill them if you want, but we are in the middle of the 6 Great Academies Alliance tournament. Do you understand? What? In the blink of an eye, heaven fell into hell. These people were so shocked that their souls were about to shatter. The leaders actually had such an opinion. Was this the unanimous opinion of the leaders of the 6 Great Academies, or was it just a single leader? Either way, it was already shocking enough. At least one of the leaders of the 6 Great Academies had acknowledged the status of the Eastern Wilderness. Such a thing had never happened before, and it was unimaginable. The students of the Heavenly Sword Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Heavenly Demon Academy, Star Academy, and Myriad Elephant Academy were all pale. They were extremely frightened. 6 old cuties. Chu Yang raised his head to look at the closed stands above the void, and said with a smile, "Your reactions are completely different from what I imagined. Facing an ant from the Eastern Wasteland like me, such a result is really unexpected. For a moment, I'm a bit confused, and I don't know what to do." Not satisfied. He was still mocking and pushing his luck. No one knew what Chu Yang was relying on to dare to do this. Not to mention the others, even the parrot was frightened by Chu Yang. Its heart almost jumped out of its throat. Everyone below the saint level was an ant. Chu Yang was just an ant in front of a saint, But at this moment, this ant still didn't know what it meant to be arrogant. Brother Yang, you've been rude. Hurry up and apologize to the 6 seniors. Just as everyone was waiting for the leader's next reaction, in this suffocating moment, an elegant, ethereal, and incomparably pleasant voice flowed into everyone's ears like a clear spring, cleansing their souls. This voice was like a mother's gentle hand, causing everyone's tensed heartstrings to relax. The suffocating atmosphere also suddenly eased. Shangguan Lan. This voice naturally belonged to Shangguan Lan. Perhaps only her voice had such charm, and perhaps only she could stop Chu Yang. When all eyes were on Shangguan Lan, she was shrouded in mist. It was as if she was in a fairyland, and no one could see her figure. Hey! An extremely surprised voice also came from the sealed spectator stands in the void. The owner of the voice was so surprised that he unconsciously let it out, allowing everyone to hear it. This made many people know Chu Yang's backing. At least Chen Burang and Long Xiaojun from the Sky Academy knew that Chu Yang, a shameless guy, could casually say such words, "Wife, someone bullied me." Chen Burang felt it the most. To be exact, he would never forget it. At this moment, when he recalled the scene that day, his face could not help but turn as black as the bottom of a pot. Feng Polong and Zong Jian were also very surprised. They did not expect such an amazing woman to exist. Chapter 2000. Brother Beigong, Chu Yang is from your Sky Academy. That woman should also be from your Sky Academy, right? What's her background? The inspector of the East Continent sensed that Shangguan Lan was unusual. Only those whose cultivation had surpassed the Sage Realm, or those with Imperial or Emperor weapons could resist his perception. If this woman had an earthly emperor or celestial emperor behind her, her background must be extremely shocking. He could not afford to offend her, so how could he not be careful? The leader of the Sky Academy said, "Brother Sun, I dare not inquire about her background. I only know that she is from Zhongzhou. Because of her, many talents from Zhongzhou came from the Sky Academy." Hearing that, not only did the inspector of the East Continent's heart skip a beat, but the leaders of the other 5 academies could not help but feel their hearts sink. Brother Beigong, she is also a big reason why you tolerate this evil beast so presumptuous, right? The leader of the Sky Sword Academy asked in a deep voice. Brother Tuoba, this is indeed a reason. The leader of the Sky Sword Academy said with some doubts, I don't know how Chu Yang interacted with the noble of Zhongzhou, and he is that woman's fiancé. Fiancé. The inspector of the East Continent and the leaders of the other 5 academies were shocked again. They had to re-evaluate Chu Yang in their hearts. They also understood why Chu Yang dared to be so presumptuous in front of them. They even felt a little lucky. Because they were worried that the people of the Eastern Wilderness had led the extraterrestrial demons to the East Continent, they restrained themselves and tolerated Chu Yang. Otherwise, they really did not know how to end the situation at this moment. It was easy to kill Chu Yang, but the consequences were probably not what they could bear. The 6 people of the East Continent even exclaimed in their hearts, "We almost fell into this little bastard's trap." In their opinion, Chu Yang, this little bastard, obviously wanted to use Shangguan Lan to ruthlessly trap them and even obliterate them. On the other side, Chu Yang was dissuaded by Shangguan Lan and had to stop the Thunder Tribulation. Although he had to admit that Shangguan Lan was right. Until now, the leaders of the 6 great academies had not expressed their discrimination against the Eastern Wilderness. It was naturally rude of him to take the initiative to provoke them, but he believed that the leaders of the 6 great academies generally discriminated against the East Continent and were more biased towards the East Continent. However, he didn't have the strength to challenge the leaders of the 6 academies. All he could rely on was the Ice Kuan. If he couldn't win, he could escape. Once he escaped, it would mean that he had declared war on the entire Eastern Continent. He wouldn't hesitate to use all kinds of methods to lure the divine world into the heavenly spirit world. This was naturally the worst-case scenario. If he could stop while he could, he would naturally stop while he could. After all, he had earned enough face. Kid, I was a little too excited just now. I completely lost my mind and offended the 6 seniors. I hope the 6 seniors can be magnanimous and treat this kid like a fart and let him go. When Chu Yang said this, the initiative was handed over to the leaders of the 6 academies. What happened next would depend on how they responded. A displeased cold snort rumbled down from the closed spectator stand, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. If there is a next time, you will be severely punished without mercy. There was no reason, no other explanation. The dignified voice only announced the result. Chu Yang could understand. After all, the leaders of the 6 academies wanted to save face. He had greatly boosted the morale of the Eastern Barren Territory and raised the reputation of the Eastern Barren Territory. He had to accept such a rebuke, and he could definitely accept it. It could be said that the price was too small. Chu Yang couldn't help but marvel at Shangguanlan's face. His fiancée's face was really big. He wasn't stupid enough to think that he had the ability to make the leaders of the 6 great academies compromise. Naturally, there was no need to kill. Chu Yang had achieved his goal. Shangguanlan's appearance was more useful than his efforts. Chapter 2001. Swish. He flew directly in front of Shangguanlan and immediately showed his fierce love. If I didn't have eyes, I would definitely be able to see your charming beauty. If I didn't have ears, I would definitely be able to hear your pleasant laughter. If I didn't have a nose, I would definitely be able to smell your fragrance. If I didn't have hands, I would definitely hug you with my whole body and mind. If I didn't have legs, I would definitely crawl towards you. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Chu Yang began to show off his love again. He began to do that mushy thing again, which Shangguanlan hated very much. She also liked it very much. If I were a fool, this would be my purest love. If I only had a soul, I would definitely turn into a gust of wind and worship under your red dress. If I were already dead. In the end, Chu Yang said with incomparable affection, I'm already dead forever. I'm completely dead. My skeleton will also bloom like a wild rose on the ground. When you pass by my head, it will bloom under your feet. In an instant, many people from the Heavenly Sword Academy, the Heavenly Demon Academy, the Divine Firmament Academy, and the other academies were stunned at this moment. How could he do such a shameless thing? They were thoroughly shocked by Chu Yang's shamelessness. Such a level of shamelessness had completely exceeded their imagination. They couldn't believe that there was actually someone in the world who could do such a thing. The world of morality in their hearts had already roared and was about to annihilate this person who ruthlessly trampled on the bottom line of morality. On the closed stand, except for the leader of the Sky Academy, the other 6 people of the East Continent were completely shocked. In an instant, they all understood why Chu Yang could win the favor of the beauty. However, what they didn't understand was, could it be that the beauty liked this kind of shameless thing? Logically speaking, such a person was a lecher. He would have been slapped to God knows where by the beauty. There was no possibility of winning the beauty's heart at all. At this moment, even the sages were confused. Brother Beigong, you don't seem to be very surprised. When the East Continent inspector asked the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy, the leaders of the other 5 academies couldn't help but look over. The leader of the Sky Academy couldn't help but laugh at this moment. He shook his head speechlessly and said, it's not the first time he has done it. The East Continent's patrolling inspector and the other 5 were even more speechless. It seemed like this was already a common occurrence. Haha. The reaction of the students of the Sky Academy proved that the leader of the Sky Academy was right. The 6 inspectors of the East Continent burst into laughter when they heard their words. Ayo, Chu Hang is here again. It's so mushy that I'm getting goosebumps. Haha, Chu Hang is really good at messing around. It's different every time, but it's definitely mushy. I'm completely convinced by his shamelessness. He can actually do such a thing in front of so many people. It's as if it's a matter of course. That's right, Chu Hang has surpassed the horizon, haha. The laughter of the people from the Sky Academy made the people from the other 5 academies realize that they had fallen behind, far behind the trend of the times. The people from the Sky Academy had actually experienced such a thing before, so they were already used to it and were used to it. Ha ha ha. The wild laughter of the parrot came as expected. Others laugh at me for being too crazy, and I laugh at them for not being able to see through me. I don't see the shameless Chu Hang in the eastern wilderness, but I see that he's famous. Alas, it seems that I can't surpass him in my life. I'm so sad. Don't disturb me. I'm going to a corner where there's no one and lick my wounds alone. What was going on? The people from the Sky Sword Academy and the other 5 academies were completely confused. What the hell was that parrot doing? What did it have to do with it? Who was laughing at it? Who was it laughing at? Why was it sighing? Why was it secretly sad? Was such a shameless thing to be envied? Chapter 2002. Strange things happened every year, but today was especially strange. With such a magical person like Chu Yang, there was actually such a magical parrot. When did the world become so wonderful? Can you inform me a little in advance? Feng Po Long was also shocked. If he had to be like Pit Chu and confess to his beloved in front of so many people and say such mushy words, he would never do it even if he was beaten to death. Zong Jian's dead face suddenly came to life. His expression became rich, and he muttered to himself, "It turns out that the world can be so complicated. Haha." Kui Xinhu and the other 2, Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and the people of the Sky Academy burst into laughter. They laughed so hard that tears were about to flow out. Feng Polong and Zong Jian did not know whether these people laughed like this because they saw the reaction of the people of the 5 academies or because they heard their conversation. But no matter what, these people were about to go crazy with laughter. Feng Polong and Zong Jian were completely speechless at this time. They completely understood why Chu Yang could do such a strange thing as stripping and hanging him up to dry. It seemed that Chu Hang was purely a joke. Ah! 2 screams suddenly broke out at this time and cut through the sky. One of the screams was from Chu Yang, and the other was from the parrot. The parrot's scream was first, followed by Chu Yang's scream. The parrot's scream was even more mournful, while Chu Yang's scream was only because of severe pain. Then, everyone watched as Chu Yang and the parrot fell from the sky like 2 meteors. With a rumbling sound, they smashed into the ground, completely disappearing. All that was left were 2 pitch-black craters. When Shangguanlan heard the laughter of the people of the Sky Academy and saw the wonderful reactions of the people of the 5 academies, she was so embarrassed that she could not stand it. She violently dealt with the funny duo and gave them a hard blow. "Sister-in-law, I protest." With a whoosh, the parrot flew out of the hole and flapped its wings. It said to Shangguanlan, "Sister-in-law, why am I the first to be attacked? This divine bird is innocent. I was led astray by Chu Hang." The protest of the parrot had attracted a lot of attention, and there should have been a sequel of the parrot being abused. However, the sudden appearance of the soulful song changed everything. "You asked me how much I love you." The song came from a deep hole. Based on the sound, the hole was definitely not shallow. It was as if the deeper the song was, the deeper the hole was. A certain person was using the depth of the hole to express his passionate love. "How much do I love you? My feelings are real, my love is real. The moon represents my heart. What love? More and more and more shameless." Everyone was once again deeply shaken. They felt that a certain person was openly displaying a certain kind of filthy matter in front of others. Not only was he not ashamed, he was instead proud of it. Many people expressed that they could not accept this, and began to feel angry. The parrot was also angry. "Chu Hang, so this is how you should deal with it after being beaten up. Why didn't you say so earlier?" After angrily scolding Chu Yang, it complained to Shangguanlan, "Sister-in-law, you clearly like Chu Hang's shamelessness. Why do you pretend not to like it?" Ouch! As soon as it finished speaking, it howled and rushed into the arms of Mother Earth again. It immediately created another hole, and soon a song came out of it. "You asked me how much I love you, these 2 clowns." Shangguanlan surrendered. What else could she do? Is this the result? Looking at this scene, Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou seemed to have entered another world. They could not laugh at all. Chu Yang was so presumptuous, but in the end, he was just lightly carried away, so that Chu Yang could be so playful. It seems that the best chance to kill him is in the arena. Yi Yu frowned, then said, "That old wild dog can't be left alive. We have to find a way to get rid of him and regain control of the space-time channel." Of course, Sima Jian had been noticed by him long ago. How could he not know about Sima Jian when dealing with Chu Yang? The reaction of the sixth campus made him certain that Sima Jian was an important node. After getting rid of Sima Jian, the sixth campus will definitely not be so polite to Chu Yang. Chapter 2003. Chu Yang had been willful and reckless. He had killed many people, threatened the heads of the 6 great academies, and challenged the authority of the leaders. Many people were caught off guard, and many people did not expect this. Many people were surprised and shocked, forcing them to re-evaluate Chu Yang. After that, it was Chu Yang and the Eastern Wilderness. After such an incident, many people had no choice but to reconsider their attitude towards the Eastern Wasteland. If they didn't change, it was very likely that one day, they would become ghosts under Chu Yang's blade, and the 6 great schools would definitely not care about it. The attitude of the leaders of the 6 great academies was a wind vane. Of course, Chu Yang knew. He knew it clearly, so he was very happy. This was a very good start. He was also secretly grateful to Shangguan Lan. The 6 great academies' alliance competition continued. It slowly got rid of Chu Yang's influence and returned to the right track. However, every time it was Chu Yang's turn, all the other martial arts competitions would stop. Everyone would gather to watch Chu Yang's competition, and they would constantly remind everyone who Chu Yang was. Wild Dog's voice had almost completely disappeared in the 6 great academies' alliance competition. At least, Chu Yang no longer heard of it. Naturally, he also paid a price. He was always being watched by others. He was at the cusp of the storm, and if he was not careful, he would die. However, some people were still lurking in the dark, waiting for the best opportunity to strike a fatal blow. Chu Yang thought that there should be many people like this, but he never thought that Nan Gongxing would be one of them. Is this Chu Yang? No wonder he can force those people to compromise. Nan Gongxing watched everything that Chu Yang did from beginning to end. He did not miss a single thing. During this period, he was frightened many times and secretly cursed Chu Yang for being stupid. However, in the end, he was the one who was stupid. This made him have a new understanding of Chu Yang and a new judgment. My enemies have an enemy like Chu Yang. They should be sitting on pins and needles, like a fishbone stuck in their throats. When Nan Gongxing thought of this, he couldn't help but reveal a delighted smile. Then, he retracted his smile and muttered to himself, they should be targeting Chu Yang soon. This is my chance. This was his guess, but he had also seen it with his own eyes. Yi Yu. Nan Gongxing saw this person, whom he knew even if he was burned to ashes, the person who had completely fooled him. Not only did Nan Gongxing see the solemn expression on Yi Yu's face, but he also saw the scheming glint in Yi Yu's eyes. He knew that Yi Yu was about to make a move. This action was definitely directed at Chu Yang, because Nan Gongxing was already dead. Other than Chu Yang, there were no other enemies. As for what Yi Yu was planning to do, Nan Gongxing had no idea. However, he could not help but feel disappointed and self-deprecating. Han Zhong, don't you think I'm such a failure? Chu Yang was originally a potential enemy of mine. I even planned to use him to make a name for myself. However, at this moment, I have to protect him in the dark. This was really a mockery. Nan Gongxing had never thought that his life would take such a dramatic turn. He even realized that protecting Chu Yang was his most important and most urgent task at the moment. As long as Chu Yang was alive, his enemies would not be able to eat or sleep well. They would definitely be in danger at all times. A person like Chu Yang was definitely not easy to deal with. So be it then. Nan Gongxing made his decision. He did not feel humiliated. Chu Yang was qualified to do so. Only Chu Yang could rival his enemies. He was still not good enough. Whoosh! Nan Gongxing fell far behind Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou. He immediately thought of a different question. If I capture these 2 people, I should be able to find out who the enemy is. Yi Yu's strength was negligible. Gong Sun Shou was only in the Nirvana realm, so Nan Gongxing did not take him seriously. Chapter 2004. Yi Yu had been exposed and was of little use to them. Naturally, the enemy would not spend too much energy on him. However, Yi Yu was Chu Yang's brother's enemy. This was different. Perhaps Chu Yang was eager to get rid of Yi Yu, or Chu Yang's brother would make a move. Therefore, it was not impossible to set a trap for him. While Nan Gongxing was thinking, he noticed that Yi Yu and Gongsun Shou were heading straight for the Sky Academy. He immediately knew what Yi Yu was planning, Sima Jian, the space-time tunnel. Chu Yang had angered the headmasters of the 6 great academies and provoked the leaders of the 6 great academies. Not only did Yi Yu see that, but Nan Gongxing also saw it. I should have thought of it. If he were Yi Yu, he would definitely get rid of Chu Yang's reliance as soon as possible. Next, it was time for him to make a choice. Should he attack Yi Yu and Gongsun Shou? He soon realized that he was very stupid. If Yi Yu had an expert by his side, he would have been discovered long ago. After all, he had been following Yi Yu all the way. He could not help but sneer. Son of a bitch, you want to play some tricks again, don't you? To deal with Sima Jian, Yi Yu would definitely not win by force, but by intelligence. When Nan Gongxing came to this conclusion, his lips curled into a cold smile. He sped up and flew over Yi Yu and Gongsun Shou at lightning speed. Yi Yu was startled by his sudden movement. Yi Yu had thought a lot. Suddenly, such a thing happened, so he thought more and felt a little uneasy. He even felt that the person who flew over his head might have been sent by Chu Yang to communicate with Sima Jian. However, he felt that the possibility was very low, so he did not change his plan. He and Gongsun Shou arrived at the Sky Academy easily and arrived outside the spacetime tunnel. Yi Yu was originally a student of the Sky Academy, so he was very familiar with the Sky Academy. The area outside the spacetime tunnel guarded by Sima Jian was not an important place at all. After arriving here, Yi Yu sent a voice transmission to the spacetime tunnel and asked to see Sima Jian. To his slight surprise, a person immediately answered and flew out. However, this person was wearing a mask, and his figure seemed somewhat familiar. Who are you? The person's voice was a little hoarse, keeping people at a distance of 1,000 miles. He was very cold and was constantly on guard against Yi Yu. Yi Yu's suspicions were immediately dispelled. I am Chu Yang's brother and Chu Fei's good friend. I was entrusted by Chu Yang to pass on an important message to Senior Sima. I hope brother can go in and report it. Chu Fei. How come I've never heard of such a person? The masked man's voice was filled with suspicion. Hearing this, Yi Yu laughed in his heart. Looks like Chu Yang and Sima Jian have no connection with each other. If that's the case, things will be even easier. A smile appeared on his face. Brother, please don't be nervous. Your Eastern Wilderness is from the Eastern Wilderness. His elder brother used to stay in the Sky Academy, but one of his arms was chopped off by Gong Sunlong. After that, he returned to the Eastern Wilderness to recuperate. He only came to the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness recently. The masked man could not help but snort coldly. I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of him having an elder brother from the Eastern Wilderness. That's not important. Yi Yu stopped trying to win the masked man's trust and said directly, this is urgent. The important thing now is to pass on the message to Senior Sima. Senior Sima will know whether it's true or not once he hears it. As he spoke, he laughed self-deprecatingly. I'm a cripple, and the person beside me is only in the Nirvana realm. Do you think we can threaten Senior Sima? That's true. The masked man lowered his guard and said, however, according to the rules of the Eastern Wilderness, the two of you have to go through my inspection before you can enter. Chapter 2005. What's the use of that? Yi Yu sneered in his heart. He felt that Chu Yang's defensive measures were too weak. Brother, please. Then, I'm sorry for the offense. The masked man strode over and was about to search Gongsun Shou. However, he suddenly slapped Gongsun Shou's head and knocked him unconscious. He wanted to kill Gongsun Shou with one blow, but it was important that Gongsun Shou was alive. Yi Yu was shocked. However, before he could react, the masked man sneered, bastard, guess who I am? The mask was removed and the face hidden under the mask was imprinted in Yi Yu's eyes. He could not help but exclaim, Nan Gongxing, you're not dead. Who else could the masked man be other than Nan Gongxing? Yi Yu, are you surprised? Nan Gongxing gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred and his fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Yi Yu was not a simple person. After a moment of shock, he said, "Nan Gongxing, the person who killed Han Zhong was not me. It was Chu Yang." Chu Yang? Nan Gongxing couldn't help but sneer. "You know very well. Do you think I'm going to ask who my enemy is? Then do you think your silver tongue is still useful?" Slap. Nan Gongxing slapped Yi Yu and sent him flying 100 feet away. Yi Yu's teeth flew out of his mouth and his face was deformed. Whoosh. He moved again and instantly appeared beside Yi Yu. "I'll only ask you once. Who's your master?" Ha! Yi Yu could only let out a laugh before Nan Gongxing grabbed his head and smashed it violently. Yi Yu was knocked unconscious. Then, he restrained the two of them and kept them in his infinite space ring. After dealing with everything, Nan Gongxing shouted at the spacetime tunnel, "Senior Sima, I, Nan Gongxing, have something to say. In my mind, I should be his enemy, not his friend." Nan Gongxing shouted a few times but there was no reply. Just as he was about to speak again, he suddenly heard a cold voice from above his head. "What do you want to say?" He was shocked. He looked up and felt the aura of the person above him. He could not take it anymore and knelt down. A sage. Sima Jian was a sage. Didn't they say he was dying? Nan Gongxing had studied Chu Yang with Yi Yu before, so he knew everything about Chu Yang very well. Naturally, he also knew about Sima Jian's situation, but what he saw in front of him was completely different from the rumors. Not only was Sima Jian not dying, but he was also a sage. "Senior, can you retract your pressure?" Sima Jian glanced at Nan Gongxing. "You are very surprised." "Of course I'm surprised." Nan Gongxing wasn't just surprised, he was shocked to death. After that, he smiled bitterly. "I finally know why he is called Pit Chu. I also finally know why he will kill people whenever he is in a bad mood. He will rage at the headmasters of the 6 academies and provoke the leaders of the 6 academies." Nan Gongxing immediately told Sima Jian about what happened not long ago. However, he realized that Sima Jian's expression did not change and Chu Yang did not blame him at all. He could not help but ask, "Everything that Chu Yang did, was it your idea?" "No. Senior, don't you think is too radical?" Sima Jian's answer shocked Nan Gongxing. "I don't have the right to teach him. I don't have the ability to tell if what he did was right or wrong. I can't comment on it." "Are you kidding?" Although it was rude, Nan Gongxing could not help but blurt out, "Are you really his enemy?" Chapter 2006. Nan Gongxing and Sima Jian didn't have much to talk about. He only told Sima Jian that his secret enemy might try to kill him, and then left. To a saint, Nan Gongxing was just an ant. An ant didn't have the right to worry about a saint's safety. It was even more difficult to plot against a saint. To be exact, it was courting death. Even if Nan Gongxing didn't come this time, Yi Yu wouldn't have succeeded. He would only become a dead man. What happened next was a little bloody. Nan Gongxing naturally didn't want to dirty the eyes of a saint. He was also very violent. When he interrogated Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou at the same time, he chopped off Gong Sun Shou's legs one by one in front of Yi Yu. He let Yi Yu see what had happened to him in the past and remember the pain of the past. The humiliation that was etched in his heart also made Gong Sun Shou feel intense pain. However, both Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou were very stubborn. They didn't say a word. Since the two of them were like this, what happened next would depend on whether Nan Gongxing was more stubborn or Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou were more stubborn. Nan Gongxing actually didn't care whether the two of them said anything or not. His secret enemy would jump out by himself, because their opponent was Chu Yang, a person that even a saint couldn't criticize. Everything that Nan Gongxing did was outside of the 6 Academies Alliance tournament. Of course, no one knew about it, and no one paid attention to it. Yi Yu and Gong Sun Shou's disappearance was naturally unknown to the people of the 6 great academies. The only ones who paid attention and knew were Chu Yang's secret enemies. During the competition, Chu Yang didn't notice any movements from his opponents, but he thought that it should be soon. However, it wasn't fast at all. As the competition went on, most of Chu Yang's opponents directly admitted defeat. A few people still wanted to try, but they were all swept off the stage by Chu Yang in a clean manner. No one doubted Chu Yang's strength anymore. A Transcendence Realm cultivator defeating a Nirvana Realm cultivator, and even a Death Realm cultivator. Such a shocking thing in the past suddenly wasn't very shocking. Such things happened too easily to Chu Yang. A Nirvana Realm cultivator defeated in one move. The Undead Spirit Realm expert was dealt with in a single move. The beginning was equal to the end, and it was resolved in an instant. Chu Yang could be said to have shown off his ability, but it didn't shock anyone. Perhaps it was because everyone was completely numb. Or perhaps it was because compared to him insulting the dean of the 6 great academies and provoking the leaders of the 6 great academies, these were trivial matters that were not even worth mentioning. However, through this, the people of the 6 great academies further confirmed that Chu Yang was a god among gods. Many people couldn't help but agree with the bullshit description of Chu Yang when it was mentioned again. At the very least, in the history of the 6 great academies, no one had ever been as arrogant and unbridled as Chu Yang in the 6 great academies alliance tournament and remained unscathed. Shangguan Lan did not have much interest in the 6 academies grand competition and directly gave up. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang weren't very interested either. They went up to show off their skills and then came back down. They clearly knew that the 6 academies alliance tournament this time didn't belong to them, but to Chu Hang. It was already clear that Chu Hang wanted to pass the 6 academies alliance tournament and make a name for himself in the East continent. Who didn't know his intentions? Who didn't know that he wanted to prove that the people of the Eastern Wilderness were definitely not inferior to the people of the East continent? Knowing was one thing, but who could stop him? In the first round of the 6 Academies Alliance tournament, there was absolutely no one, let alone anyone who could see it. It was hard to say what would happen in the future. Pit Chu had many enemies, and there were many of them. Chapter 2007. The parrot belonged to the East continent, so of course it had to show off and continue. Its purpose had always been to not let Chu Hang be in the limelight alone. In the first few rounds of the competition, many people wanted to teach it a lesson, but they were all disappointed and were directly beaten by the parrot. Then, everyone realized that the bird that was doing evil with Chu Hang was definitely not ordinary. However, the parrot soon encountered a dead spirit realm cultivator, and it was directly defeated. Fortunately, it was smart, or it would directly become a dead bird instead of a broken one. Such an outcome made the parrot even more sad because its defeat highlighted Chu Hang's greatness. The fact that a law phase realm cultivator could defeat a death spirit realm cultivator was simply heaven-defying. It could be said that no one had ever done such a thing before. This was naturally a compliment. However, after people praised the parrot, they compared it to the parrot, saying, "Look at that lousy bird. Pit Chu's accomplice is very powerful, right? Its law phase is simply a supreme divine ability that is rarely seen in the world. However, the limit of that lousy bird is only the Nirvana realm." Chu Hang stepped on it, and it was even more dazzling. The most infuriating thing was that Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang were adding insult to injury. "Damn bird, the 3 of us pitied you, that's why you were so complacent. Now you should wake up." It didn't believe it and attacked the 3 of them in anger, but it was directly suppressed. It could only use its wings to draw circles on the ground. After a while, the first round of the 6 academies joint competition was completely over. The competition came to an end. Countless students of the 6 academies had different feelings. Some were sad, some were happy, some were sighing, some were resentful, some were nervous, some were full of confidence, and some were bored and felt that the competition had nothing to do with them. Many emotions mixed together and filled the sky above the martial arts arena, as if interweaving the joy, anger, sorrow, and joy of the world, interweaving the world of mortals, and in an instant, it seemed to be a vivid display of fame and fortune. Chu Yang felt all kinds of emotions. He also heard all kinds of sorrowful cries, many voices of frustration, despair, and resentment. In these voices, he saw life and death, saw all kinds of blood, saw all kinds of cruelty and mercilessness, and many feelings arose in his heart. The cruelty that so many people were suffering now made him feel even less guilty when he went on a rampage and killed people. This was because this was a world where only one of them lived and the other died. Of course, the main reason for all of this was the rules of the Six Academies Alliance tournament. Arena battles were no different from life and death battles. There were no scruples at all, and most of them fought to the death. This led to the deaths of many students and created a lot of resentment, which made many people disheartened. Humans were like beasts. It was a tragedy, but those who were selected through blood and life and death were the best of the best. It would be great if I can meet Gong Sun Long in the next round. This Six Academies Alliance tournament was indeed a good place to settle grudges. Chu Yang was not the only one who had such thoughts. Gong Sun Long also had such thoughts. With Chu Yang's current prestige, it would be a pity for Gong Sun Long to secretly kill Chu Yang. If he met Chu Yang in the competition and won, he would step on Chu Yang's bones and become the most dazzling person in this joint competition of the Six Academies. He would also be the most successful person. Gong Sun Long was still thinking about the divine fruit of doppelganger and the sacred embryo. He was eager to obtain both of these divine objects. The sacred embryo was in Chu Yang's hands. He did not think that Chu Yang had the ability to refine the sacred embryo. As long as he killed Chu Yang, he would be able to obtain it. As for the divine fruit of doppelganger, he would be able to obtain it in the Alliance tournament. Chapter 2008. After reporting Chu Yang's matter, did Qianzi have anything to say? Gong Sun Long asked the two people beside him who were of different sizes. One of them was fat while the other was thin. The fat one looked blessed while the thin one looked ferocious. Qianzi only asked if you had broken through to the undead spirit realm. Gong Sun Long couldn't help but sneer. Does he think he can stump me? After we told him the truth, Qianzi asked if you had the confidence to kill Chu Yang if you met him in the competition. If you weren't, he would have chosen someone else. Gong Suanlong's face darkened. Does he think highly of this wild dog? At his level, he actually cares about a wild dog. He's just SOSO. He indeed thought so. If he had reached Qianzi's level, he definitely wouldn't have put Chu Yang in his eyes. The reason why he thought highly of Chu Yang was because he wasn't strong enough. He had to be careful. Qianzi said that he was basically sure that the person who ruined his plan in the Eastern Wilderness and stole the origin of the dimensional world he worked so hard to obtain was Chu Yang. Haha. After hearing this, Gong Sun Long laughed loudly. He was defeated long ago. Unfortunately, he hadn't reached that level yet. Otherwise, the wild dog wouldn't have had a chance. He also told us to tell young master that he should worry about what he should worry about and not do meaningless things. Gong Sun Long completely understood what he meant. Qianzi would take care of everything else, but he didn't want Gong Sun Long to fail to complete the task he gave him. If he couldn't complete it, the consequences would be severe. Go, give me a reply. Gong Suanlong's eyes suddenly became hazy as the divine bottle floated in them. The divine bottle couldn't be seen clearly, but as soon as it appeared, the surrounding light dimmed. Many rays of light were swallowed by his eyes, and his pupils immediately turned into a sun and a moon. They shone with blazing light, causing the surroundings to brighten up again. Hiss! The sound of a snake flicking its tongue suddenly came out from his eyes. Suddenly, the divine bottle in his eyes turned into a huge snake, pouncing forward and opening its mouth to swallow. In an instant, the fat and thin duo felt as if they had been swallowed into the snake's stomach. The entire world had been swallowed, and all they could feel was darkness. Tell him that he is the master now, but I will definitely be on equal footing with him in the future. When they heard Gong Suanlong's voice again, they realized that they were no longer next to Gong Sun Long. They had long since left the drill ground, and were heading in Qianzi's direction. Shocked, they thought, young sir, did you finally gain enlightenment of King Heaven Devourer? King Heaven Devourer was a legend in the Gong Sun clan, and they considered themselves to be the descendants of Grand Emperor Heaven Devourer. As for the Heaven-Devouring Great Emperor, it was an extremely ancient title. Perhaps only a few old fogies in the heavenly soul world knew a thing or two about it. Only then did they know how terrifying the Heaven-Devouring Great Emperor was. Woo woo woo. Dong dong dong. When the fat and thin duo left, the horns in the drill ground were blown once more, and the drums were beaten once more. The second round of the Six Academies Alliance tournament had begun, and the intense battles were about to begin. The first match of the second round was Chu Yang. As soon as he entered the arena, a person flew up from the arena. Suddenly, a dragon's roar burst out. Immediately, a violent sound wave brazenly rushed over, causing the void to vibrate endlessly. Under the impact of the sound wave, Chu Yang's body began to tremble. His skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and organs began to tremble, as if his entire body was about to disintegrate. He's not coming with good intentions. Chapter 2009. War. Behind Chu Yang, the people below the arena were very far away. But because of the impact of the violent sound wave, the people in that area seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. They all spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were as pale as paper. They didn't care about their own injuries and hurriedly retreated. The design of the arena had already anticipated that the person fighting on the arena would be powerful enough to injure the people below the arena. Therefore, there was a sufficient distance between them. However, the people below the arena still suffered great injuries. The strength of the sound wave formed by the dragon's roar was evident. Of course, the sound wave caught people off guard. This was also one of the reasons. Chu Yang was also caught off guard. Who would have thought that this person would make a move before the competition had even started? He felt as if he was suddenly hit by a stick. However, his body only trembled slightly before everything calmed down. He didn't resonate with the sound wave, and it couldn't do anything to him. The sound wave formed by the dragon's roar was just like a gust of wind that swept past. How could the body of a god be ordinary? How could a mere sound wave do anything to him? Wild dog, you're not bad. You can withstand my sound wave. You're worthy for me to make a move. There was already a person standing in front of Chu Yang. He was wearing a red robe, with a slender figure and a handsome face. He had long blue hair, and his eyes were also blue, as deep as the blue sea. This person had a rolling demonic aura, and his whole body was filled with a wild aura. He was like a beast in human form. His body was very muscular, and his muscles were like dragons. His body contained explosive power. He looked down at Chu Yang arrogantly. His chest was puffed out like a proud rooster. He was very arrogant and disdainful. What an arrogant plaything. You're even more arrogant than me. Chu Yang was even more displeased. The sound wave was 1, wild dog's insults were 2, and such an attitude was 3. Chu Yang had already sentenced this person to death. Chu Yang had spent a lot of effort to challenge the 6 great academies, as well as the 6 great academies' chancellor, and even the chancellor. Only then had he managed to make a name for himself. But now, there was actually someone who dared to provoke him and call him a wild dog. Based on that alone, there was no way he would let this person off the hook. If this person didn't die, the prestige he had built up in the eastern wilderness with great difficulty would crumble. Wild dog, I was just being polite when I said that you were worthy of my attack. Can't you understand my polite words? Seeing that I'm here, you still haven't scrammed down. Looks like you want to die. Chu Yang hadn't even said a word or done anything, but this person was already very dissatisfied. It was as if once he went up on stage, Chu Yang should pretend to be extremely frightened, pee his pants, and run off the stage in an extremely sorry state. Wild dog, how do you want to die? This person opened his mouth again. As for my name, you're just a dog. You don't deserve to know my name, understand? Where did this trash come from? Chu Yang finally opened his mouth. His killing intent had already been set. What did you say? With a rumble, this person was suddenly enraged. In an instant, the sound of stormy waves could be heard from his deep blue eyes. Above the stage, seawater also appeared out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, the stage seemed to have turned into a vast ocean. The stage was high up, but the seawater didn't flow downwards. It only concentrated on the stage. And this kind of situation happened just because he was angry. This person was like the king of the sea. Chapter 2010. Miscellaneous Fish. Chu Hang violated Yu Hualong's taboo. How dare he say that Yu Hualong is a miscellaneous fish? Yu Hualong is a fish in the sea. In the sea, he is the prey. To say that he is a small fish is a direct hit on his weak point. Those who said he was a miscellaneous fish are all dead. But now, this person is Chu Hang. That's not necessarily true. Yu Hualong is not simple. He had a great opportunity. He ate the dragon grass in the sea and even got the inner elixir of a dragon. Since then, he has made a great leap and is out of control. I'm afraid this battle is going to be interesting. On the stage, Yu Hualong flew into a rage. Everyone below the stage exclaimed in surprise. Then, Chu Yang revealed Yu Hualong's background one by one. After hearing this, Chu Yang smiled and said, "So you're really a salted fish. You think you're so great just because you've turned over a new leaf? Taboo meeting. That's your taboo." Chu Hang was still the old Chu Hang. Even though he knew the origin of Yu Hualong and knew that Yu Hualong had evolved into a dragon, he didn't take him seriously at all. "Wild dog, you are courting death. Even your woman can't save you. I will humiliate your woman first and then kill her. This is the price you have to pay for offending me." As Yu Huanlong roared, it suddenly let out a violent dragon roar. It was much more violent than the first roar. It was completely different from the previous roar. Chu Yang still didn't move. Facing the sound wave, he still felt like facing a gust of wind. In fact, the impact of the first sound wave was even greater on him, because he was caught off guard by the first sound wave. When the sound wave stopped, his expression was calm and confident, and it caused the crowd below the arena to exclaim in shock. A miscellaneous fish is a miscellaneous fish. You sneak attack again and again. But is it useful? Yu Hualong also involved Shangguan Lan in his insults. Chu Yang was angry. He sneered and said, "You'd better turn into a dragon. I want to eat dragon meat today." Roar. He also suddenly let out a loud roar. The roar of a dragon, the roar of a tiger, the high-pitched cry of a bird, and a deep and vigorous voice mixed together, forming an extremely violent sound wave that rushed out. The four images of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise appeared within the sound waves. As soon as the might of the four symbols burst out, Yu Hualong was hit by the sound waves. With a thud, he dropped to his knees, kneeling before Chu Yang in full view of the crowd. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood that dyed the seawater red. "Trash, that's this marshal's blood. Don't spit it all out. I'm going to use your blood to make duck blood curd later." Only Chu Yang's voice could be heard. Below the arena, there was a deathly silence. Yu Hualong's dragon roar couldn't do anything to Chu Hang at all. However, Chu Hang's sound waves directly made Yu Hualong kneel down and even severely injure him. It was obvious who was superior. Yu Hualong was powerful, but Chu Hang was more powerful. "Wild dog, how dare you use the pressure of the azure dragon to oppress me?" The azure dragon. The people below the arena understood the reason immediately. It was not that Yu Hualong was not powerful, but that he was instinctively afraid of the azure dragon, which gave Chu Yang a great advantage. Yu Hualong looked up and roared. The dragon roar was loud. With a thump, he sprang up abruptly. His entire body was sparkling and translucent. His bones could be clearly seen. There were 108 vertebrae in his spine, just like 108 dragons. The vertebrae were like 108 dragons that formed a huge dragon. There were also 108 ribs, which were extremely hard. There were 9 bones in each of his arms. With the support of these 9 bones, he could reach the 4 poles by raising his hands. There were also 9 bones in his legs. When he stepped on the seawater under his feet, it was as hard as an iron wall. Phew! When Yu Hualong inhaled, the air collapsed and thunder rumbled. When he exhaled, the fog spread and covered the entire arena. His body was so strong that it was amazing. This Yu Hualong is really powerful. In the end, he has already transformed into a dragon, okay? But he is only in the Nirvana realm. Chu Hang is only in the Transcendence realm. People were really shocked. Chu Yang's expression didn't change. He said indifferently, "Are you done showing off? You have shown enough that you are very strong. Is it over?" Chapter 2011. Boom. The seawater above the arena soared into the sky. Then, even more seawater surged out and gathered above Chu Yang's head. It was as if it had formed a vast ocean, and it was pressing down on him. Regardless of whether it was a fish or a dragon, they were best at manipulating water. When the fish-dragon transformation was used, its power was extremely great. With a rumbling sound, that vast ocean pressed down. When it was about to reach Chu Yang, the vast ocean that Yu Hualong had transformed into quickly converged into a water column that was less than half a meter in diameter and rushed down. The water column was like a heavenly soldier and a heavenly pillar. The fish transforming into a dragon turned the water column into a soldier. In the blink of an eye, it even condensed all the seawater within a radius of dozens of miles into a single column. It was amazing. It was no wonder that the audience was shocked by Yu Hualong's strength. Chu Yang stood motionless. He waited until the water droplet was about to fall on top of his head. Then, he opened his hand and grabbed the water droplet. With a rumble, the water column changed again into the seawater within a radius of dozens of miles and floated above his head. Trash. Chu Yang was disdainful. How could Yu Hualong compare with him in terms of comprehension of the law of water? Putting everything else aside, the memory of the Ice Kuan's archenemy and the comprehension of the law of water from the Ice Kuan were enough to crush Yu Hualong 100 times. Both the Ice Kuan and the guy who had killed it were at the Saint Realm. Their comprehension of the law of water was immeasurable. Yu Hualong's pupils suddenly shrank. In terms of comprehension of the law of water, he was not as good as that wild dog. Kill. Yu Hualong moved at a terrifying speed. With a rumble, countless sparks appeared around him. It was as if he had bumped into the air or collided with steel. Rolling thunder and lightning burst out. His physical body was really too strong, causing the eyes of the people in the arena to widen. Chu Yang's long hair was fluttering in the wind. He stretched out his hand and slapped down. It was as if he was swatting a fly. He swatted Yu Hualong down. Yu Hualong was swatted down by Chu Yang. With a rumble, all the seawater on the arena splashed up. There was no more seawater on the arena. Like a sledgehammer, Yu Hualong directly hammered through the arena. His body was stuffed under the arena by Chu Yang like a mouse being stuffed into a mouse hole. The arena rose and fell and the earth shook. It seemed to tell everyone how great the power contained in the arena was. Chu Hang's body is so strong. It's amazing. That's Yu Hualong. Among the exclamations, someone from the Sky Academy said contemptuously, "Who doesn't know that Chu Hang's body is ridiculously strong? Yu is a dragon." Someone refuted. That's Chu Hang. Yu Hualong is a freak. Chu Hang is a freak. He is the ancestor of freaks. The Sky Academy directly refuted these people and rendered them speechless. Chu Yang was indeed a freak among freaks. As for Yu Hualong, he was nothing compared to Chu Yang, who was a freak. Rumble. Yu Hualong rushed out of the arena, feeling extremely humiliated. Seeing this, Chu Yang said, "Trash, are you surprised by the result? Wild dog, go to hell." 9 Dragon's divine senses, kill him. The area between Yu Hualong's eyebrows lit up. Dragon roars came out. It seemed to be a nest of 10,000 dragons. Immediately, his spiritual force formed 9 dragons and rushed out. They rushed to Chu Yang and were about to enter Chu Yang's spiritual world. Chapter 2012. It was too easy for Chu Yang to deal with Yu Hualong's spiritual attack, although Yu Hualong's spiritual attack was amazing. The crowd was in an uproar again. Chu Hang's spiritual power is also so strong. He is only in the Dharma characteristic realm, but the spiritual power of a warrior in the Nirvana realm is not as strong as his. What kind of spiritual power is this? Is it comparable to the spiritual power of a warrior in the Dead Soul realm? I'm afraid it's more than that. Yu Hualong's spiritual power is extremely strong. Although he is only in the Nirvana realm, his spiritual power has reached the Dead Soul realm. Such an inference made the crowd speechless. Chu Hang was only in the Dharma characteristic realm, but his spiritual power was already so terrifying. Competing with Chu Hang in spiritual power is courting death. He won't even know how he will die. Yu Hualong is the only one who thinks that Chu Hang's body is strong, but his spiritual power is not necessarily strong. In Chu Hang's words, he is really naive. I'm so moved. Everyone found that the Sky Academy seemed to have foresight when it came to Chu Yang. According to the Sky Academy's explanation, Chu Kang's physical body was so strong that he had no friends, his spiritual power was so strong that he had no enemies, and his magical arts were so heaven-defying that no one could do anything to him. That's right. Chu Hang is invincible. Invincible in the world, lonely as snow. This is one of the few true words Chu Hang said. It's a pity that you won't have the chance to see it. Chu Hang sang how invincible he was when he was lonely. That was a kind of peerless style, haha. The speaker burst into laughter himself. Hearing that, Chu Yang cupped his hands and said to the crowd, "Thank you for your compliments. My cultivation is still shallow. Please don't laugh at me, what you said made me a little embarrassed." He couldn't help touching his nose as if he was really embarrassed. His shameless look made the crowd speechless and burst into laughter. But Yu Hualong was completely irritated and kept roaring. Chu Yang was not happy with him and coldly scolded, "Trash, can't you see that I'm enjoying the supreme worship? Can't you be a little more sensible? Wild dog, it's too early for you to be happy. Die." Catcher. His joints grew, and his body changed. The fish turned into a dragon's tail, and with a sweep, a black line appeared, as if cutting the void apart. Sharp claws grew on his hands and feet, and there were small dragons swimming around them. When he landed on the arena was cut open like tofu. The ring was unable to withstand such sharpness. Yu Hualong's body sank down as if he had fallen into a swamp. What kind of sharpness was this? The arena was specially designed for the great competition. It was incomparably tough, yet it was like tofu. Hiss. Many people couldn't help but gasp. They were even more shocked when they saw a red dragon coiling around Yu Hualong's body and emitting billowing murderous aura. After transforming into a half-dragon, Yu Hualong's strength was truly astonishing. Roar. With a loud dragon roar, Yu Hualong shot to Chu Yang's front like a bolt of lightning and roared, "Wild dog, how can a dog like you compare to the strength of the dragon's physical body?" Chu Yang was stunned for a moment. Yu Hualong was stunned. Chu Yang didn't respond. His expression didn't change, either. He just raised his hand. His movement was not very fast, but it accurately intercepted Yu Hualong's sharp claws. The collision between the two was like a confrontation between two divine weapons. Endless sparks burst out, and even fire and thunder burst out. The fire was burning the sky. The power of thunder and lightning crackled and spread to the void. Chapter 2013. Bang. The moment of contact was extremely short. Like an egg hitting a rock, Yu Hualong's dragon claws were rolled back and broken. The bones in his arms were shattered and splashed everywhere. He was even thrown away by the tremendous force. His whole body was dripping with blood. Trash. One time, 3 times. Do you really think I have a good temper? Swish. Chu Yang moved and chased after Yu Hualong. His palm fell directly on Yu Hualong's head. With a thud, Yu Hualong was directly stuffed into the ground. In just a moment, Yu Hualong, who had turned into a half-dragon, was defeated in a flash. Once again, he was humiliated and stuffed into the ground without any strength to fight back, which was astonishing. Chu Yang was too strong. His attack was more powerful and overbearing than anyone had imagined. Is this Pit Chu? He crushed Yu Hualong effortlessly. I wonder what will happen when he gets angry. That's right. Previously, Chu Yang relied on the thunder tribulation. How could he have such a domineering and impactful attack? Even when he defeated his opponents with one move, everyone only knew that he was strong. Absolutely, it was not as visually shocking as it was now. A roar came from the ground. Immediately, with a loud bang, a huge dragon head rushed out. The dragon opened its mouth, which was as large as a mile, and bit at Chu Yang. With a crack, Chu Yang was directly swallowed. Wild dog, you forced me to show my true form and became my food. You should be proud of yourself. It was a red dragon, covered in red dragon scales. Endless fierce and violent aura surged out of the dragon's body. Its dragon claws were shining with frightening cold light as if they were butcher's knives. Its body, which was hundreds of feet long, was hovering in the air, covering the sky and the sun. After Yu Hualong had completely transformed into a dragon, his physical body and mental strength were far superior. His continuous attacks were all easily neutralized by Chu Yang. Being scolded as a trash, he had no choice but to use his last trump card. The sudden change caused many people to be stupefied. The originally invincible Chu Yang had actually become something in the stomach in the blink of an eye. It was truly shocking, and they couldn't react for a moment. Chu Hang is just SOSO. What bullshit, invincible. That's right. So what if he's capable? The more arrogant you are, the more miserable your death will be. This time, you'll become something in my stomach and come out as a pile of shit. Yu Hualong was overjoyed when he heard that. He was about to laugh out loud when his expression changed abruptly. My kingdom of dragons, Yu Hualong shouted. He had obtained the nation of the dragon from a saint-level true dragon. It was a world condensed by a true dragon. Everything he had now was based on the nation of the dragon. Wild dog, how dare you? With a crack, just like how he had swallowed Chu Yang also swallowed the nation of the dragon. Yu Hualong was dumbfounded by Chu Yang's ferocity. The wild dog had actually eaten the world condensed by a saint-level true dragon. Trash, you talk too much. Chu Yang raised his hand and made a suction force. Then, Yu Hualong's divine soul was directly taken out. Only then did Yu Hualong realize that it was not because he was capable. It was because the wild dog had deliberately let him swallow him so that he could seize the nation of the dragon and take his spirit. He has long known that I have the world condensed by the dragon sage in my body. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the thought appeared in Yu Hualong's mind. However, before he could finish, he died with his eyes wide open. The dragon body that was thousands of feet long fell to the ground. Chu Yang had appeared on the dragon's head without anyone noticing. Yu Hualong was killed just like that. There was dead silence at the scene. Logically speaking, the result was already decided when the demonic beast swallowed one person in one gulp. Especially since Yu Hualong had already evolved into a dragon, he could totally refine Chu Yang to death with his internal organs, even if Chu Yang was stronger. However, the truth was just the opposite. Chapter 2014. Seeing Chu Yang standing on the dragon's head, those who cheered just now trembled and fell to the ground directly. Chu Yang frowned with a cold face, but he didn't make a move in the end. Instead, he dragged Yu Hualong out of the arena. Bastard, do you have a big pot? Yes, there must be, even if there isn't. The parrot shouted excitedly, which immediately stunned everyone. Then they realized what Chu Yang was going to do: eat dragon meat. Dragon meat in the sky and donkey meat on the ground. Dragon meat was absolutely delicious. The competition between the 6 academies continued, but many people's attention was still on Chu Yang's group. Soon, they smelled the fragrance of meat. Chu Yang's group soon began to eat heartily, which made people drool with envy. Savage, why is he called Chu Hang? Just change his name to Savage Chu. Let me remind you, he has been called Savage Chu for a long time. By the way, let me remind you, he is not only Savage Chu, but also Demon King Chu, Shameless Chu, Poet Chu. After this reminder, many people immediately thought of Chu Yang's rich life, which made Chu Yang even more afraid. As the competition of the 6 academies went on, many amazing people showed up. Compared with Chu Yang, their brilliance suddenly dimmed, but it didn't last long. Soon, Chu Yang realized that someone else had received the same treatment as him. One person was competing, and the rest of the matches were all suspended. Chu Yang naturally paid attention to such a person, but he didn't need to look at him to know who he was. Many people would tell him the answer. Is the Sky Academy going to defy the natural order in this competition? First, it was Chu Hang, and now Gong Sunlong. At first, Gong Sunlong did not attract much attention. However, he defeated all his opponents with only one move. He did not need a second move. This is simply unimaginable. When he was competing, the 6 academy heads personally came. Even the 6 academy heads praised him. That's why he attracted so much attention and received the same treatment as Chu Hang. Gong Sunlong's strength is real, but Chu Hang's strength is a bit exaggerated. When Chu Yang heard the name Gong Sun Long, he couldn't help but frown. It seems that Gong Sun Long is definitely not simple. He agreed with what was said in the discussion. He was indeed playing to the gallery to attract everyone's attention. This was easier, but it was different for Gong Sun Long. He had to take one step at a time to make a name for himself, which was much more difficult. Without a stunning enough performance, it was absolutely impossible to achieve this. Chu Yang could not help but pay attention to the situation on the arena. During this period of time, he had intended to feel the changes in the paradise. Even though the Dragon Saint was dead, it was impossible for Chu Yang to devour the Dragon Saint's world. However, under the suggestion of the Ice Kuan, he tried it and found that it was easy to do. He even quickly refined the Dragon Saint's world and obtained the Saint's origin in the Dragon Saint's world. One could say that his 100 heavenly grotto heavens were truly extraordinary. After devouring the dragon world, 3 of them had transformed into godhood. In that case, he would have 5 of his grotto heavens transformed into godhoods. This meant that he reached the 5th level of the Transcendence realm all of a sudden. The nourishment of the rules of the origin of saints was extremely rapid, and many new rules were derived at once. Chu Yang naturally had to comprehend the new rules. In addition, he realized a very serious problem. It was difficult for him to break through his realm. It was simply a dead end. If he didn't have a great opportunity, he might not be able to break through for the rest of his life. Chapter 2015. Zhuoyun Mountain of the Sky Demon Academy. While Chu Yang was thinking about this, the 2 contestants had already entered the arena. With a rumble, a youth with a vertical eye on his forehead fell from the sky, causing the arena to shake violently. Gong Sun Long of the Sky Sword Academy. Gong Sun Long's actions were calm and elegant, without the slightest trace of anger, and his face was extremely handsome. As soon as he spoke, it immediately caused many female students to scream endlessly, and many male students also cheered. It could be said that he was extremely popular with both men and women. He's much more likable than this marshal. Chu Yang temporarily gave up on breaking through and couldn't help but laugh. His fame was no less than Gong Sun Long's, but he was from the eastern wilderness. No matter how outstanding his performance was, it was impossible for him to receive such support. Apart from shocking and frightening people, it was wishful thinking for him to receive the love of the students of the 6 great academies. He wouldn't receive love, only fear and reverence. The fear and reverence of the students of the 6 great academies. This marshal won't receive the love and support of the East Continent, but I'll definitely receive the love and support of the Eastern Wilderness. One day, I'll make the entire East Continent tremble at my feet. I'll imprint fear and reverence into their bones and spread it through their bloodlines. Chu Yang believed that day wouldn't be too far away. Gong Sun Long, thank you for your previous efforts. I, Zhuoyun Tian, want everything you worked so hard for. It's useless even if you have any objections. On the arena, the Sky Demon Academy student, Zhuoyun Tian, crossed his arms and sneered arrogantly. You have to give me what I want even if you don't want to. You can't resist. If you know what's good for you, admit defeat. If you're not careful, I'll kill you with one punch. Zhuoyun Mountain, who do you think you are? How dare you boast so shamelessly? You don't know what you're talking about. Is Gong Sun Long someone you have the right to be so arrogant? Who are you going to kill? Zhuoyun Mountain, you better not be killed by one punch later. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? It was completely different from when Chu Yang was provoked. Countless people jumped out to protect Gong Sun Long, especially some female students. They were so agitated that they did not hesitate to insult and curse. Chu Yang couldn't help but sigh at the gap between people. Gong Sun Long raised his hand, and the entire crowd fell silent. Chu Yang would never be able to summon such power. Zhuoyun Shan, is that all you have? Gong Sun Long was very gentlemanly, and immediately caused the female students to scream. Ha. Zhuoyun Shan threw his head back and laughed. Gong Sun Long, don't think that you're so great just because your performance was amazing. It won't take much effort for me to deal with you. You talk too much. Gong Sun Long waved his sleeve and said, please, Humph. Zhuoyun Shan said coldly, Gong Sun Long, This is the result of you refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I will send you to heaven right now, die. Zhuo Yunshan roared and threw a punch. There was no loud sound, and the power of this punch was restrained to the extreme. Demonic chi rolled out of the punch, and demonic patterns danced in the sky. It was as if thousands of demons were attacking Gong Sun Long. This punch was extremely powerful, and at the same time, it contained an extremely powerful Dao technique. The endless power and the shocking Dao technique complemented each other, and the power was raised to another level. Zhuo Yunshan was indeed arrogant, but his strength was also not low. His cultivation level was not low, at the 5th tier of the undead spirit realm. Roar! Gong Sun Long opened his mouth and roared. The heaven and earth shook, and the sound waves rushed out. The rolling demonic chi was silently wiped out like filth, and the demonic patterns in the sky collapsed inch by inch. Then, Zhuo Yunshan exploded with a bang, and blood and bones flew everywhere, like a blood-red demonic flower blooming. One roar and you're dead. You're a 5th tier undead spirit realm cultivator. Chapter 2016. Gong Sun Long's roar shattered Zhuoyun Mountain, and the screams of the female students from the 6 great academies filled the sky. Seeing Gong Sun Long in the arena like a god with peerless grace and majesty, their screams became even more uncontrollable. Good, good, good. How dare this bullshit Zhuoyun Mountain boast so shamelessly? He deserves to die. Gong Sun Long is not someone he can provoke. Chumph, he wants to trample on Gong Sun Long to make a name for himself. He's simply courting death. What do you mean by wishful thinking? Zhuoyun Mountain is a classic example. You and I should take this as a lesson. The dignity of someone like Gong Sun Long is absolutely inviolable. It was not just the female students of the 6 great academies. Many of the male students of the 6 great academies respected Gong Sun Long even more. They kept belittling Zhuoyun Mountain. It was a completely one-sided situation. It was as if Gong Sun Long had killed an unpardonable villain. Amidst the cheers, Gong Sun Long suddenly turned around. With a swoosh, when his gaze met Chu Yang's, all the voices immediately disappeared. With Gong Sun Long's strength, how could he not feel that Chu Yang was watching him? At this moment, Chu Yang was still holding a piece of dragon meat in his hand and oil in his hand. Compared to the elegant and majestic Gong Sun Long, he immediately paled in comparison. His appearance and aura were completely inferior. Chu Yang and Gong Sun Long looked at each other. They did not say anything, but the atmosphere in the arena was extremely tense. It was as if the two of them were already in a life and death battle, and the outcome was about to be decided. The parrot, Liu Yunpeng, and the others beside Chu Yang also stopped what they were doing and looked at the two of them facing each other. However, until the end, the two of them did not say anything. Gong Sun Long turned around and left. As his figure spread out, he left the arena very elegantly and disappeared in an instant. Chu Yang, on the other hand, ate the dragon meat in big bites under everyone's gaze. During this process, nothing seemed to have happened. It was as if what should have happened had already happened. Everyone knew that if the two of them were to meet, it would definitely cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. A world-shaking battle would erupt. There was no doubt about this. Chu Yang was definitely the most dazzling star in the competition of the 6 academies. He made everyone pale in comparison and attracted everyone's attention, becoming the focus of everyone's attention. Gong Sun Long came later, but no one could hide his brilliance and elegance. He was the star that could be compared to Chu Yang. If one of them was a dragon, then the other was a tiger. The dragon and the tiger would fight. The dragon and the tiger, the wind and the clouds. As the pressure dragon Sun Long's name Sun Long, people's a name sun god Sun Long, it is said that Chu Kang and Gong Sun Long are enemies. If the two of them meet in the grand competition, they will definitely fight to the death. Before Chu Feng came to the eastern wilderness, his elder brother went to the Sky Academy and met Gong Sun Long. Gong Sun Long cut off one of his arms. S long longs. S his. T long S is a S T's is. Old. That's not all. You don't know, right? When Chu Hang entered the Sky Academy, He was mocked and ridiculed by countless people. They called him a wild dog, including Gong Sun Long's two younger brothers. Gong Sun Long's two younger brothers were both killed by Chu Hang. Hearing such news, many people could not help but be shocked. So, the feud between the two of them is huge. How else could it be said that when the two of them meet, it will definitely be a big explosion? Chapter 2017. Suddenly, someone said, "Do you think the battle between Chu Hang and Gong Sun Long is the battle between the Eastern Wilderness and the East Continent? Chu Hang represents the Eastern Wilderness, and Gong Sun Long represents the East Continent." Hiss, someone couldn't help but gasp. If that's the case, then the impact of this battle will be huge. That's right. If Chu Hang wins, the East Continent will be trampled under his feet. We won't have the right to laugh at the Eastern Wilderness. On the other hand, if Gong Sun Long wins, the Eastern Wilderness will lose its confidence. It'll be almost impossible for them to make a comeback. That's right. How many people like Chu Hang have appeared in the Eastern Wilderness for thousands of years? It's already a blessing from the heavens for the Eastern Wilderness to have such a person. Chu Hang alone is enough to suppress the East Continent. If a few more people like him come, it'll be even worse. The battle between Chu Yang and Gong Sun Long had already shocked everyone. When they thought of this, it was even more shocking. It could be said that the battle between the two was completely different. Whether it was Chu Yang or Gong Sun Long, both of them had unknowingly shouldered a great mission and a heavy honor. Chu Yang wasn't the only one with ears. Kui Xinho's trio, Liu Yunpeng's trio, the parrot, and Shangguan Lan all had ears. If Chu Yang could hear it, then so could they. Shangguan Lan didn't say anything. She didn't feel the need to say anything. She didn't need to say anything. She believed that this wouldn't be a problem for Chu Yang. If she expressed her worry, she would only burden Chu Yang. "Chu Hang, are you feeling pressure?" While Kui Xinhu and the other two were worried, Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang smiled brilliantly. They even wanted to thank Gong Sun Long, because it was Gong Sun Long who allowed them to see Chu Yang under pressure. In particular, the significance of this battle was very important, so the pressure on Chu Yang was even greater. He. Xiong Longxiang used to be from the Chenkuan party and was also from the East Continent. At this moment, he smiled and said, "Chu Hang, do you know about the Gong Sun family? Do you know about the Gong Sun family's sacred artifact, the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase? Let me tell you something to be happy about. Gong Sun Long's martial spirit is the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase, which is a perfect match for the Gong Sun family's saint artifact. Yin-Yang vase of 4 symbols." When Chu Yang heard these words again, he suddenly felt very distant. He had once used a replica of the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase in the Eastern Wilderness. He had long since learned from his second brother, the Saint Child, that Gong Suanlong's martial soul was the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase. "It's dragged on for too long. It's time to settle this grudge," Chu Yang muttered to himself. "You don't seem surprised at all, and you don't seem surprised at all." Xiong Longxiang was slightly surprised. He thought that Chu Yang probably didn't know about the power of the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase, so he immediately said, "Chu Hang, let me remind you. The Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase is extremely amazing. It can devour and refine anything. Once it's sucked into the Yin-Yang Four Symbols vase, Xiong, what the hell are you here for?" The parrot directly scolded, "Are you proud to know a little bit of common sense? You're just an idiot with no eyesight. Didn't you notice that Chu Hang already knew about it?" Xiong Longxiang was stunned, then he laughed and thought to himself, "I worried for nothing. Who is Chu Hang? The ancestor of deceiving others? He should have already schemed against his enemy. How could he not know about Gong Suanlong's background?" Chapter 2018. Chu Hang, how do you feel now? This was what the two were most concerned about. Of course, it was also what Xiong Longxiang was concerned about. At that moment, 3 pairs of eyes looked at Chu Yang with a playful smile on their faces. As such, it was extremely interesting for them. What kind of behavior would Pit Chu have when facing pressure? What kind of reaction would he have? The 3 of them were so curious that they were about to die. What do you guys think? The corners of Chu Yang's mouth curved into an arc. How could he not see through these three people's wicked interests? However, he said the answer himself. Good, very good. The stronger Gong Sunlong is, the better. Only by defeating him can we defeat the East Continent and crush their arrogance. From then on, I will make them unable to be arrogant. This was one good thing. The other good thing was that the stronger Gong Sunlong was, the more satisfying it would be to kill a powerful enemy. Chu Yang looked into the distance with an expectant look in his eyes. Liu Yunpeng and the other two looked at each other and then said with a wry smile, "We should have thought of this earlier." "That's right." Xia Wanjin nodded and said, "How many people can pressure Chu Hang? If there aren't a few Gong Sunlongs, he will die of loneliness." "He will not only die of loneliness," Xiong Longxiang smiled and said, "he will be annoyed to death by women. There are so many women in the world. If they all gather around him and keep chattering, I'm sure he won't be able to stand it." Haha. Hearing this, Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh loudly. Then he sang about how loneliness was invincible, which made Liu Yunpeng and the others burst into laughter. Perhaps because of Chu Yang and the others' laughter, the competition of the 6 academies progressed very quickly. The opponents that Chu Yang and Gong Sunlong encountered became stronger and stronger, but they were still unstoppable. No one could stop them. During this process, unknowingly, the top 32 of the 6 academies alliance tournament had been decided. Moreover, the top 16 were already in the process of being chosen from these 32 people. Among the top 32, Chu Yang only had one battle. If he defeated one person and eliminated that person, he would enter the top 16. In the top 32 competition, Chu Yang met a few familiar faces: Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, Su Yiling, and Feng Porlong. He had also seen the new Wanxiang child Li Chou from the Wanxiang Institute and the rumored Jing Wuming from the Heavenly Devil Institute. Other than these people, Chu Yang did not recognize anyone else. The selection of the top 32 opponents was done by drawing lots. In order to ensure fairness, the headmasters of the 6 academies would jointly draw lots. Each of them would draw a slot, and this process would continue until the end. The first match of the top 32 was announced by the Dean of the Sky Demon Academy. He stood on the arena and announced loudly, "The first match, Chu Yang from the number 1 Sky Academy versus Feng Porlong from the number 6 Sky Sword Academy." Haha, Chu Hang, I've been waiting for you for a long time. As soon as the Dean of the Sky Demon Academy finished speaking, Feng Porlong laughed loudly. He could not wait to fly onto the arena and point his sword at Chu Yang. "Chu Hang, come and let Grandpa see how good your swordsmanship is." Boom. There was an uproar below the arena. Many people had just realized that Chu Yang had never used a sword in the competition. What he was best at was swordsmanship. This was a bit shocking. It meant that Chu Yang had not used his true strength yet, but he had easily entered the top 32. Even Gong Sunlong was shocked. He had completely overlooked this point. When Chu Yang was in the Sky Academy, his most shocking thing was his swordsmanship. "I was very unhappy when I heard your voice." Chapter 2019. Feng Porlong was naturally clear about Chu Yang's purpose, so his actions were to make things difficult for Chu Yang. Chu Hang, of course, would not have a good temper. Of course, this was based on the fact that Feng Porlong thought highly of him. "Chu Hang, can you look at me differently? I am a man." As soon as Feng Porlong said this, there was an uproar below the stage. They were really surprised by Feng Porlong's words. "It seems that you are very clear." Chu Yang smiled. He wanted to win, and defeating Feng Porlong was naturally one of his goals. Of course, he was not angry, but he was very happy with Feng Porlong's attitude. "I am very clear." Feng Porlong shook his head and denied. "Then you want me to make it clear?" Chu Yang smiled even more mockingly and happily. "It's better if you don't open your mouth." Feng Porlong was so scared that he almost jumped up. This made the people below the stage even more surprised. What was going on with Feng Porlong? People realized that Feng Porlong seemed to have a good relationship with Chu Yang. "It seems that you want to thoroughly experience the complete set meal." Chu Yang smiled evilly. Feng Porlong endured thousands of dikes, thousands of dikes, thousands of dikes, thousands of dikes, tens of thousands of dikes, and still came out. His eyes were as big as a bull's, and he roared, "Chu Hang, can you give me something new? What's with that trick?" He. Chu Yang smiled and said, "It seems that this amount is just right for you, no more, no less. There is no room for discussion." Chu Yang was as cunning as a ghost. Feng Porlong completely gave up. "What do you think?" "Damn it." Feng Porlong cursed in his heart. This damn sentence came again. "Chu Hang, I don't think you can beat me in swordsmanship." His expression suddenly changed, and he became confident. He also became fierce, and his previous cowardice completely disappeared. He was like a sword that had not been unsheathed for a long time. Now that he had unsheathed his sword, he was ready to kill and drink blood. Shoo! Shoo! All of a sudden, the void trembled as numerous illusory swords appeared. In the blink of an eye, they filled the sky, shuttling back and forth. Sword energy and flying swords filled the air, making them look like stars in the sky. That place seemed to have transformed into a world of swords in an instant. "Brother Tuoba, your sky sword's Feng Porlong swordsmanship is amazing. Even in the central prefecture, it's at least average, or even better." In the enclosed spectator stand, the East Continent inspector couldn't help but exclaim in surprise when he saw this. Feng Porlong's swordsmanship was so high that he felt that Feng Porlong was an average person even when compared to those geniuses in Central State. Even he couldn't compare. If he had Feng Porlong's talent, he wouldn't be a mere East Continent inspector. Among the many martial arts, the swordsmanship could be said to be extremely powerful in terms of offensive power. In the same realm, a swordsman's strength was usually a level higher. "Brother Sun, you're too kind," the Sky Sword Academy leader said politely. "He can only show off in the East Continent, but I'm afraid he can't do that. Judging from his tone just now, he probably feels that he's not as good as Chu Yang." "That's his true nature," the East Continent inspector said with a smile. "He doesn't discriminate against the people of the Eastern Wilderness, so he probably won't be afraid of the people of Central State. He's definitely a talent." "That's right." The leaders of the other 5 academies nodded when they heard this, but their smiles soon disappeared. Because if that was the case, the other students of the 6 academies wouldn't be able to stand it. Many students could order Chu Yang around and call him a wild dog. They felt that they were superior and that it was only natural. With such a mindset, many of these students would probably feel that it was only natural when they arrived in Central State and faced the high and mighty people of Central State. Even the East Continent inspector was full of praise for Feng Porlong, let alone the audience. When they saw Feng Porlong erupt, they were already in an uproar. "Oh my god, Feng Porlong hasn't even made a move yet, and such an amazing phenomenon has already appeared. Can he control 1,000 swords, or even 10,000 swords at the same time?" Chapter 2020. Hee. When Feng Porlong heard the exclamations, he could not help but feel proud. He said to Chu Yang, "Chu Hang, did you see that? I'm a genius." At the same time, he became more confident and looked forward to this battle even more. Originally, when they were in the 7 Wheels Demon Realm, he wanted to challenge Chu Yang to a battle. Chu Yang would naturally agree to this battle. He was looking forward to Chu Yang's sword skills and Chu Yang's sword principle. In terms of sword principle, there were not many people who could make him think highly of, and there were even fewer people who could make Zong Jian think highly of. However, even Zong Jian was very wary of Chu Yang. This was purely referring to sword principle, and it had nothing to do with strength, realm, or other means. In terms of all means, even though Zong Jian was a holy disciple and had the cultivation of a semi-saint, he might not be able to kill Chu Yang. Chu Yang had too many means. For example, the lightning tribulation was a very good means for Chu Yang, but Chu Yang could not use it during the competition. Zong Jian was envious of this battle. Feng Porlong's realm was not high, and he was only at the 3rd level of the undead spirit realm. This was also something that Feng Porlong was particularly proud of. He had deliberately suppressed his realm so that he could compete with Chu Yang in sword principle when their strength was equal. Only when their strengths were equal could Chu Yang's swordsmanship be displayed to the fullest. Unfortunately, his realm was still a little higher. Fortunately, Chu Yang's strength was definitely not weak, and he should be able to make up for the difference in realm. Chu Yang did not say anything. He knew that Feng Polong was looking forward to this battle, especially since this was a battle that he had to win. He had to go all out, and this made Feng Polong look forward to it even more. Chu Yang, let me see how amazing your strength in sword principle is. All of Feng Polong's playful expression disappeared and became incomparably austere. His opponent was Chu Yang. He needed to not hold back at all. He could not be careless. He adjusted himself to his best condition. This battle was not a joke. He would never treat his sword Dao as a joke, and he would never treat his life as a joke. Master, did you feel the change in him? Chu Yang was stunned when the Ice Kuan suddenly spoke. He naturally noticed Feng Polong's seriousness and the incomparably austere aura. Master, you're always so cheeky. Even if you win, the people of the East Continent will only remember your smile and not your majesty. Chu Yang immediately understood that if a country's leader was always smiling, the country would be looked down upon by other countries because of this leader. A country's leader should act like a leader, because every word and action of his represented his country and his people. How could he not be decent and make people laugh? He had always neglected such an important issue. To a certain extent, he had completely represented the Eastern Wilderness. All of his outrageous behavior was actually discrediting the Eastern Wilderness. I hope it's not too late for me to realize it, Chu Yang said in his heart. He also understood why all of this had happened. He had not yet adapted to the identity of the leader of the Eastern Wilderness. He had not yet grown up. He was still a child. It was like a man who became a father at a young age, but continued to live in the same way as before. He did not realize that he had become a husband and a father. But the moment this man became a father, he had already decided that he could no longer stay in the same position. He had to grow up and step into a new and extremely strange stage from the current stage. Please. Chu Yang thought about all kinds of things in his mind. The frivolous expression completely disappeared. Perhaps he was not familiar with it, but he was working hard in this direction. Chapter 2021. Please. Feng Polong was not the slightest bit surprised by Chu Yang's change. He was not the only one who was serious about the sword and the way of the sword. Zhong Jian was also serious, and so was Chu Yang. Feng Polong believed that every outstanding swordsman was the same. On the arena, the two were facing each other in an invisible confrontation. Their long hair fluttered without wind, and the atmosphere was tense to the extreme in an instant. Perhaps in the next moment, the outcome would be decided, and someone would die. A battle between swordsmen was often the most dangerous. At this moment, everyone could not help but hold their breaths, waiting for that moment to come. A clanging sound suddenly rang out, scaring everyone. Soon after, they realized that it was a false alarm. Chu Yang had already unsheathed the sword of contradiction in his hand and pointed it straight at Feng Polong. It was extremely straight, as if it was pointing straight at his heart. Feng Po Kong also had a sword in his hand, but the difference was that behind him, there were 999 long swords scattered like stars in the sky, like a restless army. One person controlling 1,000 swords, this was Feng Polong's way of the sword. His sword was endless, and quantity was king. The two of them unsheathed their swords, and in an instant, sword chi swept out in all directions. The sky was filled with swords, and there were swords everywhere. Everything had turned into swords. The people below the arena only felt that in the blink of an eye, they were already in a mountain of swords, and in the next moment, their flesh would be cut by the sharp blades. Blood would spurt out, and they would immediately die. Everyone felt that death was extremely close at this moment, and they even heard the footsteps of the Grim Reaper. Tap, tap, tap. This seemed to be the footsteps of the Grim Reaper, the sound of time passing, or the sound of a countdown. Such sounds appeared in everyone's perception, and when the third footstep sounded, Chu Yang moved. Feng Polong also moved. The two of them moved at the same time, without the slightest difference. Chu Yang's sword didn't have any fancy moves or techniques. It was just a straight stab, but it made people feel like they were eating with chopsticks, cutting grass with a sickle, or chopping trees with an axe. It was as it should be. The most basic and essential thing was completely displayed in front of them. This sword also seemed to be expounding some kind of eternal principle. Feng Porlong, on the other hand, stabbed out with his sword. In an instant, it was as if he had displayed 1,000 different sword techniques. Different people would see different sword techniques. The 999 swords behind him whistled through the air like 10,000 swords returning to their master. They carried boundless might as they pierced towards Chu Yang. Dang, dang, dang. Chu Yang's sword was like an overlord slaughtering his way into the enemy. Feng Porlong's 99 swords were sent flying the moment they came into contact with Chu Yang's sword. Feng Porlong displayed 1,000 sword techniques in his hands, but they seemed to be decorations. His extremely weak defense was penetrated directly. The overlord, alone on his horse, slaughtered his way into an army of thousands of men and horses. No one could rival him, and no one could stop him. He instantly took the head of the general. Chu Yang's sword was such a sword. His sword had already stopped at Feng Porlong's throat. The sword aura swallowed and fell on Feng Porlong's throat. It was clearly visible that goosebumps had already appeared there. It started in the blink of an eye, and ended in the blink of an eye. Everything was as expected. The outcome was decided in an instant, but the difference was that neither Chu Yang nor Feng Porlong had died. This could only show how amazing Chu Yang was. In such a dangerous battle between swordsmen, he completely suppressed Feng Porlong, and completely eliminated the so-called danger. Chapter 2022. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Heaven and earth seemed to be holding their breath. Feng Porlong finally reacted and looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. You admit it. Chu Yang withdrew his sword and cupped his fist. At this time, Feng Porlong finally realized that something was wrong. Shouldn't Chu Hang say a few words or make him jump with sarcasm? Why did it end like this? He didn't guess the process, let alone the ending. Feng Porlong was not used to such a Chu Yang. What kind of swordsmanship is this? After saying such a sentence, he completely returned to his original state. Chu Hang, what happened to the agreement? Where is your sword of freedom, your sword of freedom? You bastard, you are scheming against me. You are digging a hole for me. What a big hole. The more Feng Porlong thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. His neck thickened as he roared, I'm such an idiot. I fell into the hole you dug and thought I was proud of myself. It wasn't until a bastard like you started to fill the hole and wanted to bury me that I realized it. Ayo, I've lost all my face this time. I might as well be stripped naked and hung up to dry under the sun. Feng Porlong was really hurt. Perhaps he was used to seeing the parrot howling, so he also howled like a wolf. Sword of freedom, sword of freedom? Chu Yang was also a little confused by Feng Porlong's words. His face showed a puzzled look. He didn't seem to have such a swordsmanship. Chu Hang, you are still pretending to be innocent to cover up your despicable shamelessness. Feng Porlong was even more upset. He directly said Chu Yang's evil nature. Can you make it clearer? Chu Yang didn't have a cheeky smile on his face. Feng Porlong couldn't hold it in any longer. Chu Hang, he roared, you insulted the dean and even the leader of the 6 great academies. You challenged the dignity of the world and looked down on everything in the world. Weren't you practicing the sword of freedom and freedom? Don't you want to cut off all kinds of restraints? Do you really think I don't know anything? Let me tell you, Chu Hang, don't go too far. I'm going to turn hostile. So that's how it is. So be it then. Chu Yang thought about it for a moment. It did make sense, and there was indeed a common reason. He challenged all authority, despised all, and had no misgivings. Although he was happy and angry, wasn't that a type of freedom, a temporary freedom? What do you mean by that? That's the truth. Feng Porlong's uneasiness made everyone suddenly understand. Chu Yang's actions earlier were not because he was crazy, but because he was practicing his swordsmanship. How shocking, how unexpected. He had deceived everyone. At this moment, Gong Suanlong's pupils shrank. For the first time, he didn't have complete confidence. It was also the first time he was nervous. The pressure in his heart pressed down on every one of his nerves. He only saw that Chu Yang wanted to establish the dignity of the eastern wilderness. He didn't see this layer at all, and this layer was the most important. If Chu Yang's swordsmanship was strong enough, wouldn't it be easy for him to establish his dignity? Why would he pay such a huge price and offend the leaders of the 6 great academies? He had laughed at Chu Yang's unwise action. However, after seeing his true colors, he realized that he was a fool. He really couldn't stay calm because Chu Yang's scheme was too big. Sword of Freedom. Sword of Freedom. Chapter 2023. The Sword of Freedom. The Sword of Freedom? Liu Yunpeng was touched the most. His grandfather, Sage Peng's Pengming formula, was seeking freedom and transcendence. Chu Yang said that his grandfather's standard was too high, so it was difficult to transcend. It seemed that this was not a lie. Chu Yang really thought so and was doing so. Unbeknownst to everyone, Chu Yang wanted to transcend with the 6 courtyard masters, the leaders, and the East continent as the standard, to obtain relative freedom and freedom. His cheeky smile is really a big illusion, fooling everyone. Liu Yunpeng couldn't help but say such a sentence. He completely agreed with Feng Pelong's point of view. Isn't that so? Wouldn't a cheeky person often not be valued by others? Xie Wanjin couldn't help but sigh. Previously, he also saw through Chu Yang's intentions. He could only sigh. Chu Hang is really Chu Hang. Unknowingly, he dug a big hole and fell into it without knowing it. Brother Goat. Shang Guanlan was also misled, and Xiao Guori was also misled. At this moment, they seemed to have realized Chu Yang's true colors. The parrot was also misled. It was very speechless. It turned out that it was also messing around, but the gap between it and Chu Yang was so big. In the midst of messing around, Chu Hang was actually doing something serious. He was really superior to 100 or 10,000 parrots. This divine bird must be more sophisticated in the future. It looked at the shocked reaction of the crowd and felt that it had found a bright road, and this was the real Tess. Not to mention them, in the closed stands, the inspector of the East Continent and the leaders of the 6 courtyard were also shocked at this moment. They had never thought of this. Therefore, in an instant, their evaluation of Chu Yang was infinitely improved. There was no longer any sneer in their hearts. They even reminded themselves that in the future, they should never be deceived by Chu Yang's illusion. The Ice Kuan was the most speechless one. It was speechless to the extreme. It had just reminded Chu Yang that it was not right to be cheeky, but now it had been slapped in the face. As expected of my master. He can actually explain it in such a way with such a cheeky smile. I'm convinced. I'm really convinced. Ice Kuan was completely defeated by reality and Chu Yang. He changed his words and said, "Master, please continue to smile." Chu Yang just shook his head. The Ice Kuan was right. Even if his mischievous smile was misunderstood, how could he be dignified if he always had a mischievous smile on his face? No matter how great the shock was, with the passage of time, everything would be completely erased by his mischievous smile. Chu Hang, why don't you say something? Why don't you fart? Feng Pelong was still pursuing the matter. He was truly sullen. He had been looking forward to this battle, but it had ended just like that. You haven't reached that level yet. Of course, Chu Yang did not tell the truth. He needed people to be so shocked to ensure his dignity. Feng Pelong was stunned on the spot. Then, the excitement on his face and all kinds of funny expressions disappeared. He did not even know that Chu Yang had walked out of the arena. It was not until the next match was about to continue that someone woke him up that he came back to his senses. He immediately went to Zong Jian's side and asked, "What sword technique was that?" "The essence of the sword, the wound of the sword." After Zong Jian finished speaking, he spoke again, "Indeed, you haven't reached that level. I've just touched it. He can already fight with me." Chapter 2024. That's why it's even more shocking. Zong Jian's voice was filled with excitement. If you intend to be carefree, you won't be carefree. If you don't intend to be carefree, you'll be carefree instead. It's not that he doesn't know that he's practicing the sword, But he deliberately forgot that his practicing the sword and completely integrated the sword into his body. Being a person and doing things is to practice the sword. Being a person and doing things is to practice the sword. Feng Porlong was completely silent. After a long time, he said, I'm indeed not as good as him. To be precise, I'm far from him. I'm also not as good as him. He's the lighthouse in front of us. Zhong Jian's words shocked Feng Porlong. He could not accept it at all, but in the end, he calmed down. This was because this was the truth. Zhong Jian had obtained great inspiration and enlightenment from Chu Yang. His swordsmanship would definitely improve. What he was curious about was, he practices the sword by being a person and doing things. He doesn't even realize it. Can he perform that kind of sword technique? Who knows? Zhong Jian's eyes suddenly became confused. Maybe he's the only one who knows, and he should be able to do it. At least it makes sense. That's why I said that he's our lighthouse. The sages of swordsmanship were naturally lighthouses, but in the end, it was impossible for them to be as clear as Chu Yang. To Zhong Jian, Chu Yang was a real lighthouse. If Chu Yang knew about this, he would definitely divert his attention and introduce Zhong Jian to Xiao Qiuyu so that the two of them, who were almost the same, would be confused. Chu Yang left the arena and heard the discussions of the crowd. He finally could not help but laugh in his heart. Is this the legendary illusion of the Chu clan? Everything is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. No wonder those people from the Sky Academy were so heartbroken. The so-called illusion of the Chu clan was so difficult to guard against. I really only saw Chu Hang playing a prank. I didn't see anything else, let alone think of this. Chu Hang, Chu Hang. So this is Chu Hang. That's why I said it was strange. There were no typical cases, so how did he get such a nickname? Just now, I also realized that the two words Chu Hang were so profound and so vivid. However, the people of the Sky Academy were confused. Why didn't we know that the illusion of the Chu clan could be understood in this way? At this moment, many people in the Sky Academy felt that their cultivation was too shallow and far from enough. They thought that they had already comprehended the Chu clan's illusion, but that was bullshit. At this moment, they felt as if they had just woken up from a dream. Naturally, this could not be spread out. As for the reason, only they knew. The 6 academies' combined tournament continued. After the top 16 were announced, some people had already withdrawn from the tournament before it even began. I quit. It was a woman's voice, Su Yiling. In an instant, everyone's gazes fell on Su Yiling. Even Chu Yang was a little surprised and couldn't help but look at Su Yiling. You don't have to be surprised. I'm not destined to be the main character in this 6 academies grand competition. After that, Su Yiling left with a swish, and her beautiful figure disappeared into the crowd. People were a little surprised, but as Su Yiling said, the main character in this 6 academies grand competition was indeed not her, but Chu Yang. Even if it was not Chu Yang, it should be Gong Sun Long. Why should she risk her life for a slim hope? This was a rational choice. However, only Su Yiling withdrew from the top 16. The others seemed to not want to give up and wanted to try again. Perhaps many of them still had the idea that maybe they could defeat Chu Yang and Gong Sun Long. As a result, there were only 15 people in the top 16, and one person would be given a bye. Everyone was very concerned about who would be given a bye, and the lucky one soon came out, Gong Sun Long. It was Gong Sun Long who was given a bye. Such a result caused an uproar again, because it was very advantageous for Gong Sun Long. He could not only preserve his physical strength, but also preserve his strength to enter the next round, and he would be exposed less. Chapter 2025. Among the top 16, Chu Yang only knew Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, and Long Xiaojun from the Heaven Sword Academy. He did not know Li Chou from the Nature Academy. The rest of the top 16 included Jing Wuming and Bo Honglai from the Heaven Devil Academy, Zhon Xinran from the Divine Firmament Academy, and Ni Chengda from the Heaven Sword Academy. Each of the 6 academies had its own seat, but the Heaven Sword Academy occupied most of the seats. Such a result indirectly showed that the Sky Academy was much stronger than the other 5 academies. After the first 3 matches of the top 16, it was finally Chu Yang's turn to fight in the 4th match. In the 4th match of the top 16, Chu Yang from the Heaven Sword Academy, please come to the arena. When the referee called out Chu Yang's name, the whole arena was in an uproar. The noise was like stormy waves in the ocean, constantly rising and falling. Immediately, countless eyes fell on Chu Yang. In the 6 Academies Alliance competition, no one could compare to this kind of momentum and attention. Even Gong Sunlong could not compare. Before, Gong Sunlong could be compared with Chu Yang. However, after the fight between Chu Yang and Feng Porlong, the so-called illusion of the Chu clan appeared. Therefore, Gong Sunlong was no match for Chu Yang. From this point of view, it completely proved that the Ice Kuan's criticism of Chu Yang was completely correct. If Chu Yang was not joking around, Gong Sunlong's momentum would not be as great as Chu Yang's. Bo Honglai from the Heaven Devil Academy, please come to the arena. As soon as the referee finished speaking, he immediately retreated far away. With a swoosh, accompanied by the sound of the air breaking, a young man with an obvious mole on his right cheek unfolded his body and landed in the arena in an extremely elegant manner. With a loud bang, Bo Honglai landed heavily on the arena. However, he was very vigilant and careful. He kept a distance from Chu Yang. Then, he stared at Chu Yang with a murderous look in his eyes. Demonic chi surged around him, and the flesh on his face wriggled strangely, as if it wasn't his own flesh and blood, but the flesh and blood of some other living being that had fused with it. So this is Bo Honglai, Chu Yang's next opponent. He looks extraordinary. 7th level of the life realm. If he takes a few more steps forward, he might become a half-sage. If we are only talking about realms, the gap between Chu Hang and him is really too big. I'm afraid this battle will be interesting to watch. Chu Hang seems to have never been able to defeat an opponent in the life realm. I wonder what kind of trick he'll use this time. What kind of joke is this? Will he be able to create a new miracle and defeat an opponent in the life realm with a mere first-tier transcendence realm cultivation? The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone was whispering to each other, highlighting the silence in the arena and the tension between Chu Yang and Bo Honglai. At this moment, the two of them were like being placed under a magnifying glass, being observed and studied by people. Chu Yang from the Sky Sword Academy. Chu Yang waved his sleeves and saluted Bo Honglai with a fist salute. Since he wanted to be a qualified representative of the Eastern Wilderness, he naturally couldn't make a mistake in etiquette. However, his behavior made many people feel uncomfortable and even shocked. This was obviously not the Chu Yang they knew. Therefore, some people thought that Chu Yang would stop playing tricks after his disguise was exposed and return to normal. You don't need to introduce yourself. I'm afraid there's no one who doesn't know you now. Bo Honglia's voice was a little hoarse. Are you deliberately changing your attitude to pressure me? Chu Yang laughed. If that's what you want to think, I don't want to change your mind. Bo Honglia's sinister eyes flickered. He looked at Chu Yang and said, "Your sarcasm is gone." "It's not gone. It's just hidden." Chu Yang said calmly, "I might be setting a trap again. Don't you think so?" Chapter 2026. Zong Jian was not the only one who saw it. Many people saw it as well. Bo Honglai did not see it, but someone told him and specifically reminded him. He was very surprised when he heard it because it was too shocking. Until now, Chu Yang had only used his sword when he was dealing with Feng Porlong. It was only one sword move. That sword move seemed ordinary, but it stunned many people. It made their emotions fluctuate, and they could not calm down for a long time. Practicing the sword? Chu Yang had come to his senses. He could practice the sword when he was doing things. He had done it imperceptibly. After he realized it, he even further comprehended it and hoped to cultivate the sword technique. He had thought about the reason why he could do it. It should be related to his 100 Grotto Heavens. His Grotto Heavens had once devoured Xiao Qiuyu's sword technique, the All Things Sword Transformation technique. When the 100 Grotto Heavens were deducing the All Things Sword Transformation technique, the results were invisible on his body and reflected in his words and actions. Other than this, there was a greater possibility. The full martial soul of his twin destiny martial souls could operate everything on its own, just like how the heavenly Tao operated on its own. His Tao of the sword had accumulated a great deal of experience ever since he had returned from the God realm. Under such a formless influence, his Tao of the sword had become even more obvious. Yes, I'm practicing the sword, Chu Yang admitted. He was indeed practicing all of this. He had completely integrated his martial arts with his every move. Not only am I practicing the sword, but I'm also practicing the saber. Or maybe I'm just practicing the sword, just practicing the saber. Practicing the saber. Bo Honglia's pupils shrank again. Are you reminding me that you're also very good at saber techniques? Chu Yang smiled. I'm just practicing. Bo Honglia's eyelids twitched. The words "I'm just practicing" kept repeating in his mind. He did not completely understand Chu Yang's first sentence, but he completely understood the words "I'm just practicing." When Chu Yang was talking to him, he was practicing. He was practicing all the time. Such a person was really stressful and made one's scalp tingle. Bo Honglai felt like he was about to suffocate. Suddenly, he said to Zongjian, "I'm just practicing my sword or my saber." What do you mean by that? Can you explain it to me? Among those present, Bo Honglai felt that only Zongjian could explain such a sentence. This was because Zongjian was recognized as a sword genius. Naturally, he did not feel ashamed. In front of a person like Chu Yang, no matter what he did, he would not lose face. Modesty would only win people's respect. Sure. All eyes were focused on Zongjian. Their eyes were bright as they eagerly waited for his answer. I can feel your hostility and killing intent. Zongjian's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he looked at Bo Honglai. He was awe-inspiring without being angry. It was as if his sword could kill at any moment. Do I need you to remind him? Bo Honglai looked at Chu Yang with a malicious gaze. He sneered and said, I don't think you need to remind him. He's already felt it, isn't he? As he said that, he turned to look at Zongjian. There are too many people who want him dead. The reason why he's standing here is to tell everyone that no matter if it's an open scheme or a conspiracy, it's useless. No one can kill him, and they'll all be trampled under his feet. Am I right? Are you feeling uneasy? Yes. You're a little confused. Even if you're just a little confused, it won't have much of an impact on this battle of life and death. However, you're very careful. You're doing your best to figure it out, right? Yes. Bo Honglai was so honest that it made people shudder. Their scalps went numb. Chapter 2027. There's no harm in telling you. After Zongjian thought for a moment, he said, But are you sure you want to know? Many people did not understand what he meant, but they noticed that Bo Honglai was struggling. The black mole on his right cheek was trembling. I'm sure, I want to know. A look of struggle flashed across Bo Honglia's eyes as he said with certainty. To him, a sword is a saber, and a saber is a sword. Everything in the world can be a sword, and everything can be a saber. In the end, Zongjian said with extreme admiration, his sword has cut off the shackles. To give a simple example, sabers and swords. In his eyes, you've solidified and distinguished sabers and sword. Chu Yang looked at Zongjian in surprise. He was a little shocked. He had once told Xiao Qiuyu about this point of view, but Zongjian repeated it completely. Zongjian's swordsmanship was truly shocking. It seems that I'm right. Zongjian faced Chu Yang's gaze, and countless sword lights burst out from his eyes. When will we fight? Zongjian directly requested to fight. Everyone could feel his excitement and urgency, and they were surprised and shocked. Chu Yang hated warmongers like Zongjian, who was a fanatic for swordsmanship, but he had no choice but to maintain his image. He could only say, haven't we already fought? Zongjian shook violently. With a rumble, a sword chi soared into the sky and formed a divine sword. It burst out with an extremely dazzling sword light, making it impossible for people to open their eyes. At this moment, they lost all their senses as if their 5 senses and 6 senses had been cut off. Fortunately, it did not take long. People returned to normal, and Zongjian also returned to normal. We have indeed fought, and I lost. Too many people did not understand this sentence that came out of nowhere. However, Zong Jian did not explain, and he would not explain either. As expected, I shouldn't have known the answer, and I shouldn't have asked. Bo Honglie's voice pulled everyone's attention back to the arena. His regret was obvious, and many people understood what he meant. If he hadn't asked Bo Honglie, he wouldn't have known how amazing Chu Yang was, and his confidence wouldn't have been shaken. At this moment, he was already in the arena. No matter how outstanding Chu Yang was, it was no longer important. What was important was that he had absolute confidence and the belief that he could win every battle. However, he had made an extremely wrong choice. Fortunately, I still have room to make mistakes. Bo Honglie did not bother to hide the murderous intent in his eyes. His tone was as cold as ice. He looked at Chu Yang and said, "You look like you're only in the first tier of the Transcendence Realm, but you're actually in the third tier of the Transcendence Realm. The limit of your combat power is the Dead Spirit Realm. Am I right?" Chu Yang's heart trembled. In the end, someone had seen through him. If one often walks by the river, how can one's shoes not get wet? Although he tried his best to hide it, there were too many smart people in the world. When he appeared in front of people at high frequency, it was enough for them to observe him and make the right judgment. Fortunately, he had obtained the Dragon Saint's origin, and his cultivation had increased again. His current cultivation level could be said to be in the 6th tier of the Transcendence Realm. However, such an increase should not be enough for him to deal with a Life Realm martial artist. "You seem to be a little shaken." Bo Honglie smiled. His smile was brilliant. He felt as if all the pressure in his heart had been completely released at that moment. He felt extremely relaxed, even a little playful. "Congratulations, you got part of it right." Chu Yang was still calm. "But is this enough to make you feel at ease?" You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,